Can't throw away old, used food items. It just clutters. You'll see clothing, just piles and piles of stuff. We'll see right here where you can't tell what this is, but it's actually a bathroom.
Look at that, and no access.
Right, no access, and you can't use it anymore. So it's rooms that can't be used the way they were supposed to, and it just becomes a collection building up, and you see how unsafe it is.
Yes.
The person is getting up in the middle of the night, trying to go to the restroom, they're going to trample over, they're going to fall over, hurt themselves.
Wow. Wow, and there are genuine health risks involved here.
Absolutely.
I mean, living in unsanitary conditions like this, and makes you kind of think, what if they're taking that 5-year-old bottled water and drinking that? Oh my goodness.
Right.
Now, in that particular case, I noticed there were a lot of cans and just stuff that I guess at one time or another, we just toss that in the trash and then take the trash out. But these people have somehow lost that ability to throw things away.
Right, and that's one of the earmarks of hoarding, is where people assess more value to something than it really has.
Right.
It's an emotional attachment, and the thought of even eliminating these things can become very anxiety focused for them. So that's where we have to help them.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting when you said the difference between collecting stuff, you know, which might be newspaper clippings that build up over time, and just an inability to throw things that at another time in your life you knew were worthless, that they don't need to stay in your home. Can a person, a caregiver, make a call for intervention that this is so obvious that a mental health issue has presented itself? Is that something that you call? You don't call 911, but you can call the Department of Aging,
You
right?
can call Department of Aging, and I guess what we will do is assess the situation. Sometimes we do call in Adult Protective Services, and it's not only for abuse, but it's also for self-neglect.
Oh, okay.
So we evaluate that. We also call in Department of Mental Health to make an evaluation. Is this a medical condition, or is this more of a mental health condition where the person is no longer capable of caring for themselves? They're no longer able to take their medication right, no longer able to take good care of their hygiene, and just from the picture that we saw shows you that this person has moved on. It's not the clutter, it's not a collector, but it's more this inability to let go of things that you can't use anymore. It's garbage.
And you know, I wonder if some of the reluctance of caregivers comes from their own personal sense of failure, that I let mom down, or my dear aunt isn't getting the kind of care that, and they're going to come after me.
Right. And it can be obviously very overwhelming to the caregiver to think, where do we even begin with this?
Oh, sure.
And again, the Department of Public Health gets involved, because at some point some of this rubbish goes beyond the four walls of the house.
Yes.
And it starts to filter out into the yards, the porches, and things of that sort. So when the Department of Public Health steps in, on occasion they've had to demolish things because there becomes so much mold and mildew, structural damage, infestation, that some places have had to be demolished.
Wow.
So it can be very overwhelming, and it creeps up on you.
Well, of course, especially if you're an infrequent visitor. I wonder sometimes if the best advice isn't to say to a family, look, let's pick a Saturday here, and we are all going to get together and work as an army and see if we just can't take care of this.
Right. But it doesn't happen that easily. You know, some family members, they say, well, you know, we'll send mom on a vacation. We'll all come in, like you're saying,
Right.
and we'll just bring the garbage bags and fill it all up. The key here is you have to include the hoarder in this team. It's a teamwork effort. So it's not only the family, the hoarder also has to be involved in the decision making. Because if they are not bought in, guess what's going to happen? You're going to come in the next week and the hoarding is going to continue.
Wow.
Okay? So there's a high recidivism, relapse, where when the person comes back in and sees everything is nice and clean from our perspective, whether it's the professional or the family member, they don't see that. They see that you took away their belongings, things that they loved, they cared for. So we have to be very careful how we approach this. The key is it's more of an interdisciplinary team where the key player is the hoarder, and see where they're coming from. What were the triggers that resulted in them collecting all this stuff?
Right.
Because if we change the environment, doesn't mean you're going to change the behavior. And that's something to remember.
Well, we see this in all sorts of addictive behaviors, that the rationalizations can often be really quite remarkable, and from that person's perspective makes complete sense.
Right.
Well, there's value in those old aluminum cans that I feed my cat with. Now, how about things like, what if they have pets and they need more care? Can you help with that as well?
Well, there is such a thing as hoarding of animals, where people and so much of this, I think, comes from the goodness of someone's heart, actually, where they want to take in what they think is a stray pet and bring them in, but before you know it, they've exceeded the limits that the Humane Society says we can have in our homes.
I apologize for breaking in, but it's time for a short break. When we return, we will continue our discussion of Caregiving 101 on hoarding. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Remember, pets need to prepare for disasters too. Put together an emergency kit with water, a water bowl, food, and any medications they may need. Get the message. Be prepared.
The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power wants to give you up to 7 free shade trees just for completing a workshop, either online or in your neighborhood. The Trees for a Green LA program offers LADWP residents over 40 different varieties of free shade trees. Trees benefit the environment, save energy, and add beauty. Get your trees by participating in an online workshop by logging on to ladwp.com/trees or call 1-800-GREEN-LA.
Welcome back to Aging in LA. Our topic on today's program is Caregiver 101 on hoarding. Our guests are family caregiver specialists from the Los Angeles Department of Aging, Dr. Anat Lewis and Susie Rodriguez-Shapiro. You know, I just had a thought here during the break. This isn't really just about your economic conditions. This isn't like living in the slums. This can be a very upscale person who has amassed possessions they can't claim.
Absolutely. I've been to homes of very well-off people, educated people, so it hits all levels of socioeconomic status. The thing to remember, and Susie began touching on this, is in terms of the dirt related to the hoarding, what it causes is health issues.
Right.
You have high incidence of asthma, respiratory condition, contagious diseases because of feces and dirt laying around from animal hoarding.
Right.
You have safety issues related to fire hazards because building up newspapers and old clothing laying around, higher risks of falls. And we already know as a person gets older, you're already increasing your risk of fall.
Right, and that's a big determinant in whether you can have a healthy aging.
Right.
That's
As well
fall.
as the social aspects. Social isolation, they're more ashamed to bring people around the house. They isolate themselves, they're by themselves. And it's very sad and depressing. So they're lonelier.
I was amazed to read that often couples are involved in this hoarding behavior, that elderly parents, perhaps, your aunt and uncle, together have amassed this clutter.
I think what happens there is that usually one of them is worse than the other, and the other is what we would call in today's psychology an enabler.
Right.
They don't want to start trouble. They don't want to create problems with their spouse, so they just go along with it. And as we were saying, much of this sometimes does come from a good place in their heart, where they think, I don't need this now, but I may need it later. Someone I know may need it later. This may help out, so it's on sale, so I should get it now. So there are different levels and different types of hoarding that can happen. And it generally comes from someone who wants to do good for someone else, but it's way out of control.
Of course, I'm thinking of the house with many rooms where one room is kind of reserved for junk, But boy, if that starts to spill out through the house, then
And that's typically what happens. It's Usually starts in one area of the house and then slowly starts creeping in throughout the rest of the
Then I
house.
better have a tune-up. I was amazed. My wife and I inherited her mother's house, and in order to move in, to make room for our 30 years of stuff, we had to move 60 years of stuff. And this was a clean house. I'm not talking clutter, but I'm talking 30 years of accumulations. Sometimes I know for a fact in my neighborhood people have gone from a larger house to a smaller house, and there is no room.
Right.
And they won't sell a stick of furniture.
And typically with hoarding, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yes.
It is over time. And you'll see it more as a young adult start collecting things. Like Susie was saying, they keep it for a present, give away to someone. But then as the person gets older and then you walk into their house, these are things they have collected over the years.
Yes.
The garage is now full, so now they have to bring it in the house.
Of course. But I'm just thinking, you can see it happening. Well, I saved these aluminum cans because the nephews come over and they take it to the recycling center. And then the nephews are in their late 20s or 30s and don't come by anymore. And the next thing you know, they're still saving the cans, and there they sit piling
And the
up.
intention to do something with these things is what starts to cause storage in inappropriate places.
Yes.
So pretty soon you're putting things in corners of rooms. Pretty soon you're putting them in the bathtub. Pretty soon you're putting them inside the oven because you're not using the oven.
Right.
On top of the stove. And before you know it, the rooms are not really available for what they're expected to be used. I've seen homes where you go into the person's bedroom and the bed itself already has so much that all you see is a little space where the person kind of crawls in and out of at night and in the morning because the bed is full of things, because the bedroom is now full of things. So it just inches.
Okay. Well, Bobby, a friend of mine, Bobby Sherman, said sometimes he will get into these crowded rooms, but there will always be a clear path to the television set. Somehow or another, that one easy chair and that remains open. Well, are there professional services that do this stuff in addition to the nonprofits who maybe are accustomed to dealing with the mental part of this? But a professional service that you could call on to say, hey, I've got this place, it needs to be cleaned up.
Typically it starts if we're dealing with an older adult. It's a social worker or case manager through the senior center because the family member has access to them because they're getting some meals, they're getting some other services. So that's usually the first point of contact. And then it's assessing and seeing what the older adult, what do they want? Are they actually asking for help? Or is this older adult not capable anymore because of the limitations that they have that we were discussing before? And that's when we bring in whether it's Adult Protective Services, so they could assess and do a write-up. Do we need to bring in other family members to see, is this person no longer safe to live at their home? Do they need to be placed somewhere else? And that's usually where we start.
I would think this is kind of a special obligation just as a human being. If you're a landlord and one of your tenants is in this condition, maybe it's a long-term tenant, you can call the department, right, and say, listen, I'm this person's landlord and I'm growing concerned.
Right. And that's the piece that even as we said, there's many older adults that don't have family members
Yes.
at all or nearby, so they may not be aware of it. But as a neighbor, if you start to see that last time you went over to check in on someone, you saw evidence of what you think is progressing to become worse,
Yeah.
or a landlord, certainly give a call, let us know what you've observed, and then we'll look into it and see whether it's a problem.
Well, now, obviously, you have to worry about any kind of threatening behavior because people will shut themselves off. How is that approached if you're going cold to someone's home and saying, I'm just checking on you? Is that kind of what you do?
Typically, that's what we do. We want to establish the rapport. We want them to feel safe. We're not here to take things away, take them out of their home, because, everyone, their home is their place of comfort.
It's their castle.
So, and typically what you see with hoarders, they do not let you in right off the bat. It takes a long time to establish that rapport, to let their guard down, to make them feel safe that we're here for them.
Is it a sense of privacy or is there some
Shame.
residual shame?
Yeah, there's shame, there's the embarrassment, and it's also the fear that we're going to take their stuff away. because like we were saying, for them it's value. They don't see it the way we see it. So what we need to do is educate them and explain to them that this is in relation to safety and for their health. Those people who hoard animals, they typically are rescuers, right?
Yes.
So they do it out of the love of their heart. They don't want these animals to go wandering around, not have food. But what happens with hoarding animals is they build up so many animals, there isn't enough space. The animals have all these conditions that they become contagious, and one gives it to the other.
Right.
They can't get the vaccinations, the sanitation. So the purpose of why they're trying to rescue the animal is now why we have to come and help them with the animal. And these animals, we end up having to, put them to sleep because they become so ill that it's even out of the vet's control to know how to take care of them.
But do you find that the hoarder responds to this kind? I mean, that's a wonderful approach. It gets them to buy into the issues. But when you explain safety issues to them or the malnourished excess of pets they have, are they still able to comprehend that?
Generally, when it's approached as a concern,
Yes.
people do. And what I have found interesting is that as we've gone around the communities of Los Angeles to talk on this topic, afterwards people have come over still kind of hanging their head down a little and saying, I think I might have this problem. How can I get help? So they do
Wonderful.
self-identify.
Wow.
But when they understand that it's about helping them to resolve something that they know underlying is a problem rather than a threat, they are much more open to getting help.
Well, that makes great sense. I just think over and over, this happens so often to people in isolation. And we've got to, if we have elderly neighbors, we've got to look in on them. We just have to do that.
Right. But it's a very complex issue.
Sure.
Again, it's not something that could be solved within a week or within a month's time. The key is to establish a goal with the hoarder. See, if we help you with starting with one room, with one section at a time, rather than let's clean up the whole place, that's going to overwhelm them.
Sure.
And like I said, recidivism is very high. So they will relapse and start collecting again. So you got to accept them where they're at and start there. There's also a clutter support group or a hoarder support group that are out in the community, where they could be with others who understand them, accept them, and they feel very safe in that kind of setting.
That's wonderful. So look, help is available. Now, our time is up for today's program. Thanks so much to our guests, Dr. Annette Lewis and Susie Rodriguez Shapiro from our own Los Angeles City Department of Aging. And now, it's time for today's Senior Stat Shots. Since we discussed how caregivers can deal with hoarding on today's program, we are going to share some statistics on how many seniors require some form of assistance with personal care. A recent study by the California Department of Aging estimated that 30% of women and 17% of men over the age of 75 need some form of assistance. The study went on to show that in the age group 65 to 79, 17% of men and women need some kind of assistance. In the age group 75 to 84, 28% require some form of assistance. Those men and women 85 and older, nearly half, 49%, need some form of personal care assistance. By the way, the age group 85 and older is the fastest growing segment of the U.S. population. And that's today's Senior Stat Shot. The Los Angeles Department of Aging produces this program with CityView, Channel 35, so that seniors living in Los Angeles and surrounding communities are well informed on the many issues that face them in everyday life. And also to let you know of the many services that the Department of Aging offers our senior citizens. Now, we'd like to hear from you with comments on the program, what you like, what you think can be improved, and your ideas for future programs will be welcome. Please give us a call. The number's right there on your screen, 213-252-4088. That's 213-252-4088. Call us with your comments and ideas. We look forward to hearing from you. I'm Paul Peterson for the Los Angeles Department of Aging, the people here at CityView Channel 35, and all of our guests on Aging in LA. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.
Hahn. Good morning. This is Friday, June 4th. Welcome to Los Angeles City Council. I'm Councilmember Zine. We're going to begin with our presentations this morning. We want to thank Mr. Alarcon, Mr. Koretz, Mr. Labange, Mr. Parks, Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Garcetti for being here in Chambers for our Friday meeting. And we have this morning 6 presentations, and we'll begin with 11th District. Mr. Bill Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. And good morning, colleagues, and good morning, city family, and good morning, most importantly, Gay Pride and all those associated with Gay Pride. Could you all stand up for a second? As one can notice, I mean, I think we've all begun to notice this probably in the last 20 years, that the faces of gay, lesbians, bisexual, and transgender people is the same as everybody else. We're all part of humanity, and we all bring our special contributions, our special values, and our special sensibilities to our great nation and the world. We've come a long way in the United States of America from where we were when I was a kid. Not only did I have to hide the fact, but if I didn't, I found lots of problems, including when I worked for Westinghouse Broadcasting and Cable. When they figured it out, they were abusive to me. And as I grew in my life, various phases of me talked about myself, first at my family, and then at my job, and then to the public when I did a television show. And when I finally liberated myself from any sense of shame or embarrassment or fear, and realized, and I'm a religious guy, that God created nature, and I'm part of nature, and God makes no mistakes. That was the ultimate, as Troy Perry would say, the leader, one of the major... Come up here, Troy, for just a second. I just want people to see who he is. Here's one of the founders. What he did was create a church all over the world, where hundreds of thousands of gays, lesbians, bisexual, transgender could go and pray to their God and feel good about themselves as they spoke. Because the bottom line is, once you love yourself, you can love others, and you can get on with your life. Sometimes it's a long process, but we've moved in a great direction in the last 20 years in our country, but we still don't have our basic freedoms of gay people. Don't ask, don't tell, I was in the military, and there was no problem, and so was the Reverend in the military, but we're still trying to work that out. And then it comes to lots of other issues in employment and in housing, and frankly, overall, we need more leadership throughout this great nation to give us and grant us what everybody else has, our basic human rights and freedoms. So let me go a little bit on script, okay, because that was just straight from the heart, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and honorable colleagues. It is an honor to be here this morning to kick off the 40th annual LGBT Pride Month. June is Gay Pride Month. It's a time for everybody to feel good about themselves and realize that we're great and that we just need to continue to be positive about ourselves and the world we live in. I've seen a lot of progress in my lifetime, but as I mentioned, we still have a lot more to do to achieve equality and justice. In fact, we passed a motion, my colleagues did the other day, that had to do with what was going on in one of the African nations. Malawi decided to put two young men who were in love with each other in prison for 14 years. 14 years for just showing their affection and love. And we've condemned that, as we did, the City Council did, in supporting gay marriage. It was unanimous on the council floor, as it was also attacking Iraq for the way they were treating our brothers and sisters there and killing us. We are being murdered in various parts of the planet just because we happen to be who we are. But here in the United States of America, we've seen progress, but we're not completely there yet. The first honoree is called Roots of Equality. Roots of Equality is a grassroots organization of young professionals who came together in late 2007 to fight Proposition 8, which took away the right of LGBT Californians to marry the person they love. After Prop 8 passed, Roots members noticed a disconnect between the newly energized post-Proposition 8 generation and the movement that came before it. To bridge the gap, Roots of Equality created Lavender Los Angeles, a groundbreaking exhibit in downtown Los Angeles to connect the city's young activists with the pioneers that came before them. Can I ask the group to come on up here that are part of the group? Come on up right behind me right now so people can see your faces and appreciate you. And I'd also like to ask our city clerk, Jean Lagme, would she come up too, who is a high appointed official that our great mayor has put in to be part of our administration here, an open lesbian, a very healthy, normal, great lady, and she becomes another role model for us all to know. Let's give her a round of applause. The City Clerk of Los Angeles. I feel comfortable having you right next to me. She's my sister, and, you know, it works. It really works if we love each other and treat each other with respect. Okay, now come on up. Who we have here? Who? Tom Simone? Where's Tom? Come over here. Come closer. Teresa Wang. Where's Teresa? All right, Teresa. Hi. Melissa Lopez. Great. Okay, Andrew Satcher. Where are you, Andrew? Come on over here. Good to see you. And then also we have Jason Wright. Where's Jason Wright? And we have this. Great.
DM.
Where's DM? DM Tran. Oh, good to see you. Good to see you. And as you can see, the youth have been radicalized when all of a sudden they realized that the gay marriage wasn't there. They said, oh my God, we don't have our basic rights. And I'd like to give the Roots of Equality a by the way, this is Len Wen. Come over here, Len, for a second. People can see you in the light. Len is one of my deputies, also an openly gay man. Give him a round of applause. Tom? Overall, Roots of Equality. Who would like to have that one? Okay. Jason?
We'll give it to him.
Okay. You give that to Jason. Melissa? Okay. Okay. Teresa? Annie? Do we have everybody there?
Andy.
Okay. Where's Andy?
All right, Andy. Take this one.
Take that one, Andy. Okay. Say a few words, whoever wants to speak.
Tom.
Thank you, Councilman, and the City of Los Angeles for honoring our organization today. We feel that this city has a really fantastic and rich history, and that this is an important chapter of that history, and we want to share that with the world. So thank you so much.
You know, a lot of young people, I would say people under 40, when Prop 8 went the way it did, got radicalized. And I'm really thrilled because the battle is still going on. We still don't have our basic freedom, and thank you for putting your energy in it. I said in Washington, D.C., when we had the big march, with the wisdom of the old and the energy of the youth, together we will have basic civil and human rights. Thank you. Now let's bring in the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles. This is real gutsy, okay? Because the churches still condemn us. Part of our problem is organized religion has set up rules that throw us under the bus. And this happens all over the world. And there are even some radical groups that even go to the extreme of wanting to kill us. And they do kill us. And I'm sure a gay man or woman was murdered somewhere on the earth today just for being who we are. And I'd like, come on up, Troy Perry, and I'd like, John Bruno, and I'd like David Tomley, Robert Williams, the Reverend Canon Joanna Satoris, Malcolm Boyd. Let's give another round of applause with Mr. Mark Thompson. He's one of our spiritual historic leaders, okay? We also have Randy Clemmer, and we have Jack Plimpton, James White, Luis Gabriel, everybody knows I can't pronounce names, Chris Tumley, the Reverend Mark Hanneman, Mr. Mitchell Bell, and the Reverend Vicki Mornan. Okay, now, last month, the diocese here in Los Angeles made history with the election and consecration of Mary Glasspool as Bishop Suffragan. Thank you. Get close to me here.
We've been working together for a long time.
She became the first open lesbian bishop in church history. This milestone would not have been possible without both the grassroots and top-down leadership of the laity and church leadership standing here today. Today I asked Bishop Bruno what accounts for the success of the diocese LGBT ministries. And I'm going to let him reply rather than reading something here that was written for me. And I'd like to let you start off, and I'd like you to help me give out the certs to everybody else.
Thank you. Thank you, council members and friends. We appreciate being here. The Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles in 1984 didn't know what it was that struck us, but when I came to Echo Park, all of a sudden we started working with the Metropolitan Community Church and dealing with the AIDS crisis in this world. We worked with Tom, and we worked with all the people around this table, Ed and Eric and Rich Llewellyn and Bernie Parks, all of you, and Janice who's standing back there. And we worked together to try to put our heart where our mind should be. When our heart got around it, our mind joined the process. And we've taken a stance from that point on to be proactive about treating with quality of life and excellent humanity every gay human being in our midst. The people of Los Angeles chose to elect Diane Jardine Bruce, the first woman, and Mary Glasspool, the first woman who happens to be a lesbian. And they elected those two women because they knew it was the right thing to do. We've taken a little flack from the Worldwide Anglican Communion, but we've given a little flack because some of the places he talked about, like Malawi, like Uganda, like Nigeria, are places that persecute gay people for who they are. There's a man standing behind me, Malcolm Boyd, who took me to march from Selma to Montgomery when I was a 17-year-old boy. He taught me right things. How could I deny a human being? I got to admit, we've had 4 lawsuits, and we're still fighting 3, and we've won all of them, but we're still fighting it up the Supreme Court because people don't believe that there should be equality and humanity. And it all happened because this man had me and Mary to dinner one night and asked me if I would bless his 25-year union to his partner, Mark, who's right here with us now. My wife, Mary, can't be here because she wanted to be here more than anything else, but we're putting an animal that's been in our family for 18 years to sleep as I speak. And it's, believe it or not, it's an important thing that we do that. People understand the care that we give to our animals, but they don't understand the care we give to the gay humanity within our church. I got to tell you, I wouldn't be who I am today, the Diocese of Los Angeles wouldn't be where it is today, and a lot of people, more than the ones that we lost, 40 plus in my first year in Echo Park, would be dead if we didn't pay attention. I give thanks to Bill, who I followed around sort of running after as a man working for Bobby Kennedy a lot of years ago, and I got to tell you, I'm proud of this city and the way that these council persons do what they do in order to celebrate all humanity, from the lowest to the highest. I one day got to be Janice Hahn's daddy when Boys Day came around. I'm a kid from the ghetto in East LA, and I've grown to a relatively good position of authority. I thank all of you for honoring my people. Thank you.
We're looking forward to Janice Hahn being lieutenant governor, and that was just my opinion there, I'll tell you very clearly. I want to say something about Malcolm Boyd. The Reverend Canon Malcolm Boyd, who served as writer-in-residence for the diocese, was the first priest to come out in the 1970s and was author of the 1965 bestseller, Are You Running With Me, Jesus? Malcolm organized the first diocesan AIDS Mass in 1985 to provide spiritual support for those living with HIV/AIDS and their caregivers, while also remembering those who died with the disease. Troy Perry, I want you up here as well at this point, okay? And I'd like to ask Malcolm Boyd to say a few words.
It's wonderful to be here with all of us who are. I'll be, next Tuesday, oddly enough, is my 87th birthday, which is kind of incredible, isn't it? I had no idea. But I was a freedom rider in '61 and was arrested in the Pentagon when we had an AIDS mass protesting the Vietnam War, and we've had an interesting run. And I'm very proud of the church, and so happy to be a part of it. And Mark and I, in our 25 years together, which is so wonderful. But I just want to look back a moment. You know the Dark Ages as well as I do. And we've been through really a great deal of hell, just trying to be human beings and Americans. And I feel that we've won the war. There might be a couple of battles that we still have to do, but I feel that we can have a victory parade. Mm-hmm. And so I choose today to feel this is a victory parade.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I want Troy Perry to say a few words. Tell us about the church, how you created, why, and the impact around the planet.
That would take me hours, so I'm going to just take 2 minutes to tell you this. October the 6th, 1968, our church was formed here in Los Angeles, founded in this wonderful, wonderful city. I've lived in Los Angeles for 46 years now. This is home for me. I've never lived anywhere, even though I'm a Southern boy. I love this city. I love our mixture of people in this city. I love this city council. I love our mayor. I am thankful because I've seen such changes. To see Bill Rosenthal on the city council open as a gay man has thrilled me no end. Now, I know we've had others, but I am thankful for him for being the openly gay person. Our church is in 29 countries now. We continue to grow. Good things continue to happen. Again, this city, thank you, LA. You've taken seriously our struggle and our fight over the years. And I'm thankful to God that we're here today. I want to thank to Bishop Bruno and the Episcopalians, the first church I ever went to talk about gay rights after I had founded MCC was the Episcopal Church. And Malcolm and I have been friends, he and Mark, and our neighbors. We live 3 minutes from each other's house. We do it with mirrors, I tell people. But it has been an incredible journey. Yes, I've been slapped in the face. Yes, I've been spit on. Yes, people have tried to murder me. But I learned a lesson years ago. As a Christian minister, to be absent from this body is to be present with the Lord, so they can't scare me with death. And that's the thing we have to know and keep fighting for, and not to let anybody stop us from the struggle we're in today. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know a lot of people don't remember it, especially the young ones, but when we were going through the worst of the worst, which was our Holocaust of AIDS, people who said, I never knew anybody who was gay, all of a sudden began to see brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and cousins, and they began to realize we're everywhere. And one of the great things you did, Troy Perry, was give us a place to be and grieve with the Holy Spirit with us, to feel good about ourselves. And I can't thank you enough for the 80s and the 90s and the pain and suffering we went through, you and Malcolm and others who came to our front. God bless you all for that. And I hope someday my church, the Catholic Church, one of 8 kids, will wise up and get with it and realize God created us just like he did straight people. And maybe my church will become a lot more honest with integrity-filled leadership. I look forward to that day. Can I hand out some certificates, Len?
He's right there next to you.
I want you to come up a little closer. Yeah, and I want you to say one word or 2 or 3. Tell us who you are.
Before he starts, this is Jack Plimpton. He's run our AIDS ministry since '85.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and it is truly an honor to be here to speak about our gay movement as well as the AIDS ministry. I lost my partner 18 years ago to AIDS, who was an Episcopal priest, and with great honor and great love, Bishop Bruno served at his funeral, and he is, anyway, he's where we're all going to be someday, whether we're gay or straight. Thank you very much.
And as I said, with the wisdom of the old and the energy of the youth, we've just experienced a whole lot of that energy on all sides of it. And now we want to go into Christopher Street West. And let me hand out these certificates. Okay. Christopher Street West. 40 years ago, it became. Why did it become? Because many of us, and I grew up in Jersey, would go to New York. We had a bar called the Stonewall. And the police raided it one day, as they raided everything around, and in this city as well, okay? And in that context, we began to say, enough is enough is enough is enough. We got very angry about it, frankly, and then we created something called Gay Pride. And in this great city, Christopher Street West popped out of nowhere. Paul Koretz knows this. Here's Paul, a straight guy who joined the Stonewall Young Democrats to become part of a group because he believed in basic human rights. Thank you, Paul Koretz, for being a historic leader for gay and lesbian, bisexual, and transgender rights. Thank you very much. And his great city, because historically, when it was created, had 5 members of the city council, of which 3 were open gays and lesbians. It was the first in the nation's history of a community where we felt empowered. I was so excited, I can't tell you how thrilled I was. And when I was the cable guy, I used to cover everything and put it all out there and let everybody see it. But the most important thing about Christopher Street West, or any large group of gay people getting together, is the sense of pride and empowerment. You walk into a situation and you say, oh my God, I'm not the only one. I'm not an alien. I'm not some strange being from some other planet. Look at that guy. He looks like my brother, or this lady over here looks like my sister. And all of a sudden we realize that by being together and being proud of ourselves, we can actually move on and grow up. And, you know, you got to know that Christopher Street West is an organization that does all kinds of amazing things. And when we talk about it, we're talking about people who have made that difference happen for all of us. And at this point, I'd like to ask the Christopher Street West leadership to come on up in front of me right now. Rodney Scott, come on. You're the main guy who's the leader of this group, who has put this together. And I go every year to Christopher Street West, and many of you are coming with me this year to be on the fire truck. Bernard Parks always sits in a car with his wife. He does it that way. Others get on the fire truck. Carmen Tutanich and Dennis Zine get on their motorcycles with their leather and everything else. In fact, last year I got on the back of Dennis Zine's bike as we're riding around. Eric Garcetti has been on the bike, and so we really do, as a city, show our appreciation, respect, and commitment and connection to our great community. Tommy LaBonge, who was on the fire truck with me last year, had me go and he says, no, Bill, you stand over here. Tommy's the best guy around. He knows how to take pictures and do all of that. So Tommy gets the energy going for all of us and does it. Janice is there all the time showing who she is. And Tony Cardenas, he gets out there and makes a big difference with us. And of course, Richard Alicon does. And Ed Reyes, my seatmate, and I had a lot of chats about this and have shown real leadership, especially with Las Memorial in your area there, where you had the courage and the guts to say, leave that up and it makes sense. I just want to give Ed Reyes a round of applause for that. There is a script for this, but I'm not going to be scripted on it. Christopher Street West, come on up, my man. Say a few good words.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. I'm Rodney Scott, and I have the pleasure of being the president of Christopher Street West. And I want to do a couple of thank yous. First to Eric Garcetti. Thank you for your continuous leadership and support of us. To Paul Koretz, as a West Hollywood City Council member and as an Assembly member where the Pride Festival and Parade takes place, you have provided leadership. We're thrilled to have you as part of this council, and we'll be seeing you this year. To Paul Krikorian, who is my new city council person for where I live, I welcome you to LA Pride this year as our city... Where did he go? Thank you. And to Bernard Parks, thank you for you and your wife always joining us. 40 years ago, there wasn't a single openly gay or lesbian person serving in an elected office. 40 years ago, we had no rights. We didn't have the right to work. We didn't have the right to housing. We didn't have the same basic civil rights 40 years ago. Now, much has been done in 40 years, but there's much to do. I don't have the right to serve in my military simply because I'm gay. I don't have the right to marry who I love simply because I'm gay. In some parts of this world, as Bill was mentioning, I can be put in prison for life or being put to death for simply being gay. Could you imagine if we tell people that simply because you are Latino or African American or you're a woman or because you're Asian, that you could be put in prison for your life? It wouldn't be acceptable. And true, we have come a long ways. But I really encourage everyone on this council not to lose vision and not to lose focus, that we have a lot to do. We have a lot to do in this state, and we have a lot to do in this country, and a lot to do in this world. And I call upon each one of you to come out. To come out as a friend, as a supporter, as our council members for our community. This 40 year, I'm asking all of you to come to Pride, but come out. And let everyone in your district know that you support us, because it's really important. Our lives depend on it. And this event wouldn't be happening if it wasn't for three men. Morris Kite, Reverend Bob Humphreys, and I've been saying this all year, we have one living founder. And what a privilege it is to be carrying his legacy, his vision for the last few years as the president of this organization. To have Reverend Troy Perry as one of our founders is a guiding force for all of us. So I just want to give a minute to Reverend Troy Perry.
I just want to say thank you all. 40 years ago, we stepped off of McCadden Place and Hollywood Boulevard. We had come to the city. We had to go to the police commission. They said that we had to have two bonds, one in the amount of $500,000 in cash, the other $1 million. And we had to have 5,000 people marching. We thanked them profusely. We took the city to court. And that's why it's so wonderful to be here this morning, to be back in this room again. And it's an amazing story. They really pulled us around. I was the spokesperson that day. They didn't want me to stay away from the word homosexual. That'll just open the cages. I said the cages are already open. Edward M. Davison knows who we are. This is not a problem for the chief of police. And finally, when we got an attorney from the ACLU, went back a week later because the city charter said we had to appear twice before the police commission before we could sue the city for our parade. And we immediately had our attorney. They took off the 5,000 marchers, but kept on the $1 million to pay the city it would take for the parade, plus $500,000 in cash to pay for all the windows that were going to be broken out when we ducked. Just like the Jews in Germany. They were done, the same thing happened to them. When Germans threw rocks at Jews in Germany, the Jews paid for the glass, believe it or not. That was the law. And we took the city to court, and thank God, the judge on Friday before the first parade banged his gavel, said we had every right to hold our parade, and we were citizens who paid taxes like everybody else, and he didn't care if they had to call out the National Guard, we could hold our parade. And we held that parade, and thank God, this is the oldest gay pride parade in the world. New York City. New York City did not hold a parade. They held a demonstration on sidewalks. I wanted a parade because police usually didn't beat up people in parades. And I counted on that to keep us safe, and we were. And I was arrested later after the parade for fasting and praying. And the first city council member, I said, until somebody comes and talks to me, and Bob Stevenson, the first city council member. And after that, all of you. I've met all of you. Peggy Stevenson, all of you. That's right, came over. But I know so many of you, and thank you again. When I say this about this city, I really mean it. That what an incredible city we live in with all these races, all of us who are so different. And yet we make it work here overall. And we're really the light on the shining hill that other people in other cultures should really look at to see how to get along. Thank you all.
I want to thank Bill.
Yes.
Because I can't think of a better advocate for our community, a better spokesperson. That's why 2 years ago we named a Man of the Year of Christopher Street West. Yeah. You are truly a vision for all of us. And I can't imagine you not being part of our Pride celebration, and I'm so looking forward to you being there again this year on the fire truck and providing the leadership that you provide, not just for your district, but for the city, for the state, and for this country. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Mr. Koretz. Mr. Koretz. Mr. Koretz, followed by Mr. LaBonche.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I just want to say how proud I am to have this presentation for the Pride celebration, to have many of my good friends here. And I think the big message is how much progress we've made. We're not exactly where we'd like to be, but I remember when I first got active in the mid-'70s, and I had gay friends, and I saw how terribly they were treated at so many levels and how many rights they didn't have. And so I was the first straight guy to join the Stonewall Democratic Club 35 years ago, and I was surprised to find that I didn't have much company. And it wasn't the most popular thing to do, but it just seemed so outrageous, and we've made so much progress since then. I mean, for the state of California actually to have allowed a number of people, same-sex, to get married, I would have never expected 30 years ago. And for the California state legislature to pass marriage legislation, even though it was vetoed, that was a great thrill for me to be part of. And so we make 3 steps forward, we take 1 step back, but it's been a continual level of progress. And for me, the most encouraging sign is the younger generation has grown up knowing gay people, knowing lesbians, and they don't know what the issue is. When I first told my daughter about some of the issues around gay and lesbian marriages, she said, "I don't understand. You mean they can't marry?" And for me, that tells me where I think things are going to go in the future. The younger generations don't even understand why this is an issue. They don't see it as an issue. They know a lot of gay people because so many people have come out. They're their friends. They're their relatives' friends. I just think it's just a matter of time till we finally see full equality. And this is a great celebration that celebrates all the progress we've made and the little bit of progress we still need to make in this country. As Bill noted, in the rest of the world, we still have a much longer way to go. We still see people get executed for being gay lovers, which is just astonishing. But in this country, we've made it almost all the way. And I believe in the next few years, we will pass same-sex marriage in California. And I think it'll pass across the country. And we will finally see full equality. And it'll happen in my lifetime, which I really am surprised and delighted for that to be the case. So thank you for all your work for all these years, all the activism on the part of the folks that are here and the folks that couldn't be here. I mean, probably the thing I'm the most proud of and the most surprised is in my own religion, in the Jewish religion, Rabbi Denise Agar is now the president of the Southern California Board of Rabbis as an open lesbian. I'm proud we have had that openness, and I expect to see that across California and at the ballot box in the next few years. So thank you for all your great work.
Mr. LeBone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zine. Let's give a hand to Bill Rosendahl, who brought us all together here. And Reverend Troy Perry, thank you for remembering Robert Stevenson and Peggy Stevenson. And it was a totally different time being here for 35 years. All the changes that take place. And the truth of life is if you could meet people and understand people and love people and share, and we all have common goals, which is so important. So congratulations. We'll see you in a week from Sunday. And this is a great day. And I think as Mr. Koretz said, as you mentioned, when the generations of young learn about those in the past and the struggles, it helps carry the history, the legacy, so that we do get to the promised land. Thank you very much, Mr. Zine. Congratulations to everybody.
Garcetti. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And thank you, Mr. LeBonge, Mr. Koretz, and of course, Mr. Rosendahl for what's a marvelous celebration every year. And congratulations, 40 years, it's amazing. And thank you for the history, Troy, of talking about stepping off right there on McAdden, where it's Morris Kite Square, but it's really as much your square as well. It's everybody who had the courage that day, and 1,200 marchers and 30,000 folks who supported them along the way on the first march. And Los Angeles does get bypassed quite often, and we're not seen as the center of the history history of the movement when we are, not only because of the march, but because of the Black Cat riots that we had here before the Stonewall riots, when LAPD cracked down in Silver Lake on folks that came together and they were discriminated against simply by whom they loved. This horseshoe has kind of an important role as well in the movement, whether it was in 1976, LA City Council, a year before Proposition 6 was put on the state ballot, banned discrimination based on sexual orientation in 1976. That's almost 35 years ago. When I think about the march, it started 7 months before I was born, and those of us who have benefited from the work that so many people did to grow up in a society that values that sort of equality has enriched all of our lives. It's wonderful to have an openly gay member of the City Council here. I'm very proud to represent what is kind of the gay heartland of the city as well, in Silver Lake and Hollywood, and so many of the social service organizations that popped up because of crisis. And appreciate what you said, Bishop Bruno, about that as well. My father's first cousin, Jimmy Hester, who was somebody I loved very dearly, who early on was lost to the AIDS epidemic, and so many people in our families and so many people in our communities that we lost. We stand here today as resilient evidence, not only of who we are, gay, straight, bisexual, transgendered, but what we are as a city. And here in Los Angeles, we can be very proud that it's not just been 40 years of celebrating Pride, but we have been at the heart of changing people's hearts throughout the world, and recognizing that every single day here in Los Angeles, we are the center of the universe in so many ways because we're the cultural capital of the world. And so many of these fights happen on Fox News or happen in a legislative body when we're really winning the hearts when people see those images that we broadcast from here on our TV programs and in our movies. I think music, I was listening to NPR the other day saying music is the last place where there's not openly gay, songs that are, there's ambiguous songs, but that's the last frontier for us to conquer. But that we did that with television and with movies, people now know and see that. And while I'm sure there's a couple people who still in this room are uncomfortable today, you know somebody in your family who's gay, you know somebody in your workplace who's gay, and it's not a matter of behavior, it's a matter of nature, it's a matter of who people are. And so we invite you to take this day in Pride to join us. It's in a celebration of humanity, not a celebration of one particular way of thinking. It's about whether you embrace all of humanity together, and we couldn't be prouder to do that with you today. God bless.
Mr. Ed Reyes. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Councilman. I just want to rise and applaud you. In an environment where the term anti seems to be in front of everything, we have so much energy and so much hate in the world, and the lack of understanding and the need for tolerance is, I think, we're at a crisis point when we have an economic environment where it's easy to point fingers and lay blame as opposed to talk about how do we share, how do we love, how do we understand. Those are key words that allow us to get over this crisis point. And when people hurt, people suffer, and to have a soothing voice, to have a place where people can say whether they're gay or not, what's important is that the person cares. And I've seen it in each and every one of you. Father Bruno, I want to thank you. When I met you in Echo Park, all the work you were doing for the youth, to support the ones that wanted to get out of gangs, the social services, I mean, on and on. Everything you've done is just amazing. Councilman Rosendahl, his passion is such that, at times we sit here and say, well, do I say this or don't I? And yeah, I'll say it. And he actually verbalizes what we need to hear. And for all the young people in the audience today and those that are listening, this is really just about caring and love. That's all we're saying. And just give us a chance. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say briefly how honored I am to have so many heroes and trailblazers and champions of human rights here with us today in this chamber. And, I know when you're in the middle of any difficult, long fight, it's sometimes difficult to realize how much progress that you've made. When we're on a long journey and not necessarily seeing the distance that we've come from the beginning, we're more focused on, the pebble in our shoe right now and how much, how difficult it is right now. But we don't often enough take the long view of the progress that we've made. And I think that when it comes to equal rights and equal dignity for gay and lesbian Americans, it's sometimes hard to remember how far we have come. When I ran for the State Assembly the first time in 2000, that was a decade ago, not that long a period of time ago, and I was roundly excoriated on television within my own Armenian American community for just standing up against discrimination against gays and lesbians. And to think that we've come from a time that year when the sort of most aggressive position taken by people like Jackie Goldberg at the time was just a domestic partnership and just having, sort of that level of equal treatment. To have come from that point to all of us, to now, after only a decade, being at a point where marriage equality is a mainstream issue that, Californians throughout the length of this state are joining and supporting. That is a remarkable, breathtaking achievement that all of you have made a reality. You've really changed our culture. It's more than just changing laws. You've changed, in the span of that decade, you've changed our national consciousness. And I think that's a tremendous achievement that all of you and all of us who care about this issue should take tremendous pride in that achievement. We still have a ways to go, but let's also celebrate the fact that America has changed, California has changed, and it's thanks to the heroes that are in this room. So thank you very much for helping us to come to that point and realize that change.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Mr. Rosendahl, the close.
It was lovely, and I want to thank my colleagues who spoke. It was nice to sit in the pew like the rest of the folks and just take in the energy of what my colleagues said. A lot of unsung heroes are around the horseshoe. That's the staff of many of our offices, have a lot of openly gay men and lesbians and bisexual and transgender people. We have become very normal in City Hall, and I appreciate my colleagues, every one of them that has openly gay staff members, for treating them with the same respect and dignity that they do everybody else. It makes a big difference in our city. And I want to thank all of our city departments, which are totally there on every level, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of city employees here in this building and throughout the city that are openly gay and can be proud of it. I want to thank our mayor, who's at a funeral. He knows his priorities. He needs to be at that funeral. He would be standing here with us, too. He has gay relatives. Hey, John Perez, the new big speaker, openly gay man, happens to be his relative. He had people who work for him who are gay. And never once did our mayor take any other political position except that it's right that gays and lesbians be treated with equality. So I just want to say hats off to Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa for his leadership on that. And he's having a reception Sunday at 2 at the Getty House for everybody in the room here, and I hope many of us will show up to the Getty House to the mayor's reception. That's it, folks. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present the gay and lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community. Bless you all. Thank you.
Mr. Alarcon, hold on, Mr. Alarcon. Bill Rosendahl, Mr. Alarcon just came up from the queue.
I just wanted to react. You're anything but normal, and it has nothing to do with you being gay.
Thank you very much. Okay, that completes that presentation. Ms. Hahn, you're next. But before Ms. Hahn, Mr. Krikorian with an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize that we're joined today by the Student Council from Apperson Street School, their teacher, Mrs. Lee, and also Rebecca Reisner, who are here with us. I want to welcome them all. They're student leaders at Apperson, and I'm so glad that they're able to come here and see the way the City Council operates, and I want to thank them for their leadership of that school and for taking such pride in making their school a better place. It's good to have you all with us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian.
And also, Mr. Zine,
LaBonge.
We have some guests from the Constitutional Rights Foundation from Fremont High School. You please stand.
Fremont High School, welcome. Welcome to City Council. Ms. Hahn.
Garfield High School. Thank you. Welcome to City
Fremont, the
Hall.
Pathfinders.
The
Ms.
Fremont is
Hahn,
the Pathfinder.
before the presentation, we're going to take the roll. Madam
the
Clerk,
path
take the
or
roll,
make-
please. Take the roll, please.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Very well, thank you. Now, Ms. Hahn, for your presentation, please.
I'm glad you said that. That's what's nice.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's very good.
He's 13.
Oh, and he's 13. Well, okay. My turn? Okay, great. Thank you, colleagues. I'm really pleased here today to honor a very special young man, 13-year-old Anthony Avellano. And Anthony is an award-winning photographer. Tom Labange, you should pay attention to this. He would like to, you might take some tips from him, or he might take some tips from you. Anthony is an award-winning photographer who showed about 50 of his photographs recently in San Pedro at our Croatian Cultural Center. He's a 7th grader at Rosemont Middle School in La Crescenta. His interest in photography started about 4 years ago when he and his mom started to take trips to national parks. He likes to photograph nature, panoramic scenes, animals, flowers. They subscribe to National Geographic, and last June he saw a notice for an international photography competition for children aged 6 to 16. The theme of the contest was biodiversity, and it was co-sponsored by National Geographic and Airbus as part of their Green Wave initiative for conservation. Anthony submitted a picture that he took at a campsite at Redwood National Park last year. A banana slug eating a golden raspberry. Right, this is it. Okay, right there. Look at that. A banana slug, wow, eating a golden raspberry. I mean, that's incredible. He was chosen from more than 20,000 entrants as one of the grand prize winners. In December, he and his mom were flown out to Washington, D.C. for 4 days of awards and ceremonies, events, and sightseeing. There were a total of 8 winners, and only 2 were from the United States. The others were from France, Germany, Finland, Poland, and the Dominican Republic. This is very impressive. We were very honored in San Pedro to have you show your photographs at our Croatian Cultural Center, and we're very honored to have your photos shown there in San Pedro. I know you're here today with your mom, Camille, and she must be very proud of you, as we all are. Camille, let us know that you have to leave quickly. Apparently you're getting back for a test at school. So if you need a note or anything for me to give to your teacher on where you were this morning, I'd be happy to do that. But anyway, on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, we are extremely proud to present you with this official congratulations on being selected by National Geographic and Airbus as the grand prize winner in the International See the Bigger Picture Photography Competition. Congratulations, Anthony. I let you take a photograph.
Tom, you're stealing our official photograph.
He's one of the council members.
And we see Mr. Labange, the amateur photographer, is taking photos.
Anthony, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you for letting me be here today, and yeah, this is amazing. Thank you so much, and hopefully I will continue my photography.
Of course you will. Do you want to tell us anything about what you were feeling when you saw this giant banana slug sitting there eating a raspberry?
I was kind of like, ew, this is kind of gross.
Ew? I was thinking the same thing.
But then I put a golden raspberry in front of it, and I waited 15 minutes, and I let it crawl over it and dissect it, and I used a macro lens, and I took the photo.
That is incredible. It does have an ew factor, but it's very beautiful, actually. It's extremely beautiful. Camille, do you want to say something as the proud mom?
We hope it's not too much of an ew factor, because Anthony would like to present this to you in your office.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. Thank you. I've known some giant slugs in my life, and this is the most beautiful. I'm just saying.
Thank you.
Mr. Garcetti, Council President Garcetti, our next presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And colleagues, I alluded to this a week ago when it was the last meeting for our amazing city clerk. Hey, don't worry. We're used to it here. It's the best send-off. I was asked a few years ago by my sister about the council members because she watched us on TV. And she was asking me, what about that woman, she has short hair, she wears those glasses, kind of thick glasses on the side. And I was trying to remember, I said, Janice Hahn she has short hair, but she doesn't wear glasses like that. And I said, was she African-American? She said, no, so it's not Jan Perry. Wendy Gruhl, she had short hair but wasn't wearing glasses. And then it hit me. My sister, like most of the people who watch us on Channel 35, thought that our city clerk was one of the city council members. And she was talking, of course, about our beloved Maria Kostrencic. It's a tough Croatian name. Maria, as we know her, who today is celebrating her retirement from the city of Los Angeles after more than 32 years. And I think I can say probably with great confidence there's nobody who's appeared as many times on that side of the horseshoe and as few times ever here. This may be, in fact, her first time at the podium. Yes. She's the woman who controls this clock. She's the woman who interprets everything that happens. She's the one that keeps protocol. She's the one who keeps making sure that there is everything done by Robert's rules and the rules of the council. She's the one who interprets sometimes, and I think we all can say we've once in a while made motions that are somewhat vague and undefined, but she gives clarity to them. And she basically runs the city of Los Angeles. And so because of that, we are all indebted to the incredible work she has done to make democracy work in these hallowed halls. For more than 32 years, she served the people of Los Angeles with a dedication and distinction that is unmatched. She entered public service in the office of Councilmember John Gibson in Council District 15 before having the wisdom to come over to work in Council District 13 for a while. For a week. For Peggy Stevenson for exactly 1 week. And then she returned to Council District 15 working in the office of Joan Milky Flores. We had her for 10 years in the council, but then she joined the Department of Water and Power, where she served with distinction for a decade. But contrary to the myth, people do leave DWP to come to the city, and she came here to join the city clerk's office. Since then, she's provided critical and exceptional service to the city council, to the mayor, to city departments, to the media, and to the people of Los Angeles. It's not, don't just take my word for it. She earned the Office of the City Clerk Outstanding Service Award in 2000 and in 2007, the City of Los Angeles Career Service Award in 2009, and we remember this from our student days, the perfect attendance commendations from the city clerk in 1999, 2000, and 2008. I don't think there's a city council member who would have earned that award. Maria is known for exhibiting an inherent diplomatic ability. She's revered and admired by her colleagues for her work ethic, her unassuming nature, and her camaraderie, and I'd like to say her sense of irony, too. As council clerk to the City Council, she is our trusted guide, our advisor, our friend, and today the City Council of the City of Los Angeles, on behalf of all she has done for the years, extends our heartfelt gratitude to Maria for her distinguished career and phenomenal service, and we have a couple surprises. I'd like to invite my predecessor, if I may, Mr. President, our President Emeritus, who's come down for this as well, State Senator and former Council President Alex Padilla, to join us.
Senator Alex Padilla.
Excuse me.
Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Cardenas?
Point of personal privilege. I know Alex Padilla, and he looks more like Grizzly Adams. What's with the beard?
Please, thank you.
Thank you, and I see there's a clock here that Tom LaBonge always wanted at the podium. I won't take up too much time.
You only have 2 minutes, so go ahead.
But I wouldn't have missed this And I know we were trying to schedule this a couple months ago, and it's been a couple turbulent months for the City Council with budget issues and other issues, and we needed Maria to stick around a little bit more to get through it. But we have, and she's on to retirement, much, much deserved. I just wanted to come here and say thank you, because for all those years that I would get stopped in the streets of my district or throughout the city, and people said, you do a good job running the council meetings, I would tell them, I can't take the credit. I learned a long time ago, let the clerk do the work.
Get out of there.
And it was really the whole team up there, from the voting clerk and the city attorney, that would keep the agenda moving and to the extent possible, make the council look good. So we couldn't do without you. I know there's a city proclamation that we're presenting today, but since I'm not a city council member, you're going to have to settle for a Senate resolution from the state of California. And we'll save the good stories for afterwards, from the little hourglasses when the power would go out and all those other instances, from budgets to redevelopment hearings and everything in between. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Alarcon.
You know, if you could imagine a job where you have to watch 15 people argue every single day, it takes along with taking all the noise and clamoring that we make in City Council and making some kind of sense out of it in terms of articulating a motion. It's really amazing. But the most important thing about the four people that sit up here, or 4 or 5 or whatever the group is the personality that they bring. Because you can't do this job without having the ability to take us with a grain of salt. And Maria is the consummate taking us with a grain of salt type person, because she brings a sort of casual approach to a very technical job, where she doesn't take it too serious. And we shouldn't take ourselves too serious either. In a world that is becoming increasingly cynical and angry, it helps to have the people up here who have a great sense of humor and can do their jobs without focusing on all that cynicism and just taking care of the business at hand. Maria, you've been great, and it's been fun sitting so close to this group up here, because when I get everybody else upset, it's nice to know I have 3 friends up here that we can joke around with. But Maria, I wish you well in your retirement. I think you made the right decision. We had this conversation, and congratulations. And most importantly, thank you for bringing a very friendly approach to a very technical job. And it's been such a pleasure. Good luck in many years ahead.
Thank you.
Mr. LaBonge.
You come to City Hall, you work for a council member, you work very hard for a council member, you learn an awful lot in that office, and then you have an opportunity to contribute. I think what's so important, and I think for the deputies who are standing around here, to look at Maria is a great success story, who contributed greatly in a council office and then found their way to an operating department and achieved great success. And you were always so cool as you operated this city council as the clerk. So I just wanted to personally thank you for all the years of service to the people of Los Angeles. I'm very proud of you, Maria, and I'm proud of your cousin? Aunt, who does such a great job for the Department of Environmental, which is going to be the old sanitation department, does a great job out at, I call it West Imperial Highway, in honor of Randy Newman. Okay.
Ms. Hahn. Ms. Hahn.
Well, thank you. I wanted to rise as one Pedro girl to another Pedro girl to say congratulations on your wonderful service with the City of Los Angeles. You spent a lot of your time with council members in the 15th Council District, John Gibson and then Joan Flores. And I just wanted to say good luck in your retirement. You've earned it. and you've been a wonderful presence here in our city council chambers, always calm, always cool, no matter what was going on, and it was a really consistent presence that you offered us, which we appreciate. I see you walking around San Pedro. I'm sure you'll continue to do that. Gives me inspiration. I may get back to walking soon. But congratulations, Maria. Again, you do us all proud, but particularly those of us in Pedro, we are very proud of you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, I was just sitting with Maria there on the side. We were just having a little chat, and I said, "What are you doing here?" "I'm retiring." "You can't retire. You're just a kid."
Thank you.
But the point is, this ERIP business, it might have been good from a budget standpoint, from one level, but we are losing a lot of really good people who have been the backbone of this city. And every time I come into the chambers here, there you are, sitting up there. Sometimes I see the hair change different colors. But most importantly, you are solid and strong and bright and always on the mark with everything that you've done for us. And as the rookie historically in politics around here, you gave me a lot of sense of confidence. You gave me a lot of sense of purpose. And you're going to be a tremendous loss to us. But I know it's not the end of where you are. You're young and bright, and I'm going to see you coming back in other capacities. Bless you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Reyes.
I just want to say thank you very much. And it's good to hear the voice of Senator Padilla in this chamber again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Grizzly.
Thank you, Maria, and my congratulations also to you. It's often we say, Madam Clerk, continue, and there you go. So, Madam Clerk, it's now your turn.
Wow. Thank you all so much for the kind words. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to miss all of you, sort of, pretty much. I'll still watch on Channel 35 and call and say, no, they can't do that. But again, I want to thank you, and I've come full circle. I started in the council office for 10 years, and then I ended my career working in council. So I just wanted to say it's been fun. I've had a good time. It's been a great career working for the city, and see you guys on 35.
Very good. Congratulations. Mr. Garcetti.
I know John Walsh and Arnold Sachs are here. They wanted to thank you for never interrupting them. I'm sorry.
And that also made my decision easier. So I don't have to listen to public comment.
But we do have a party and cards. Leonard Shapiro, Howard Watt, Zuma Dog, Sophie Lynn Hawkins, and others wanted to send their best to you as well. But on behalf of the entire city, the last council that you served with, the mayor and city attorney and city controller, we wanted to present this to you. It is attested to by the city clerk, and it doesn't begin to represent how grateful we are for preserving our democracy every single day here in council chambers. And I hope you will do us the honor as we take have we called the roll already?
Yeah.
Okay, as we take our first vote, if maybe you'd go back in the chair for one last vote of ours, and it'd be the great send-off from Maria Kostrencic. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, group photo. All right, we're going to take a group photo with our retiree and the council members.
Stay in the chair for a second.
Yeah, we'll leave you there for a few more minutes. How about Mr. Parks?
Should we do a piece of business? Is there anything that we...
All right.
Okay, let's do the...
Madam Clerk, please,
Yeah, here, get it.
we're going to turn this over to Mr. Garcetti for an official acknowledgement.
Hold on one second, Ms. Parks, just 1 second. I think we still have a little bit of business, if we can run through before the agenda.
First order of business is approval of the minutes.
All right. I'll move that, and Mr. Krikorian seconds. Without objection, those will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Well, since yours is one of the commendatory resolutions, I will move that again. Mr. Cardenas seconds. Without objection, those are approved. And with that, we'll go back to Mr. Parks, and we thank Maria again for her great, great service.
Thank you, everyone.
We're going to continue the exodus from the city clerk's office at this time. We're here to honor Lorraine Brathwaite, who has served many elected officials, city departments, residents of the city of Los Angeles for over 31 years of service. She began her career in 1979 in the Los Angeles Police Department in the warrant unit. She promoted quickly, went to the Department of Community Development. In 2000, she joined the Office of City Clerk as a legislative assistant in the City Clerk Council Public Service Division, currently providing significant service to the very busy Budget and Finance Committee. As a chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, I learned very quickly that even if you add things to a report, you add them, you never correct her reports. You just add information. She has received the Office of the City Clerk's Outstanding Service Award in 2007 and received a number of other commendations for her outstanding commitment to professionalism. She's highly respected, well known throughout the city, and her advice and wealth of knowledge is routinely sought by the Office of the CAO, the City Council, the CLA, and other city departments. Now, I've never seen this in committee. They said she has an infectious laugh, but I know she has a warm smile, particularly if you're doing the right thing in the committee. She is very generous with her time. She works significant hours, particularly during the budget process, and we thought it was only fitting that we honor her at the conclusion of her 31-year service to just tell her just how much she means to the city clerk's office, but to the city council. It is a tough committee when she sits there 5 days a week and 70 to 80 hours doing budget hearings, never complains, except if you correct her report. But I found out quickly if you just add information, she won't call you and say bad things to you. But I am so pleased to be able to tell her thank you. Certainly with the early retirement, we're losing a lot of good people, but I think they certainly at 31 years, there's a lot of deserving and accomplishments that she's going to go on to do other things in the city and in her personal life, which she certainly has worked hard in, as far as her achievements, and now has a chance to benefit from her retirement. So on behalf of the entire City Council, we wanted to say thank you. And we'll get this frame back from you before you leave. No, we have a budget crisis, but not that bad. Come on up here. Come on up.
Mr. Garcetti.
I just wanted to add my voice as well and thank you for amazing service. It was great to be on a number of committees together and to be able to serve together. I think I was asking because I had this imprinted memory, I think, because we've worked so closely together, that you were also council clerk, to which, of course, your colleague said, no, she's way too smart for that. And you have done an extraordinary job as well. And, you know, one of the things that is still a little bit of anachronism, I know we've tried to change over the years, but we have to get signatures from everybody on all the council files. And you always are so unfailingly polite and so graceful with the way that you get your job done. And the way that you are able to maintain our committee meetings as well has been simply extraordinary. I guess counting between the two of you, losing 63 years of experience today from the city clerk's office. but I couldn't have been more proud to come to work with you, and you made it an amazing place to be, and so thank you for everything that you did as well. God bless.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Lorraine and I have a thing going about eggs. I owe her another half a dozen.
Out of context, folks.
Out of context, folks, you understand this. On the Budget Committee, which I've had the privilege of sitting, you've been the one keeping it all together for all of us. And you're unflappable. You have a wonderful personality. You're warm and inviting. You're completely together. And again, this is a tremendous loss for us to lose you. When you had mentioned it to me a month or two ago, I said, no, not you. And I've been saying that about a lot of different people. And we on the committee can just say from the bottom of our heart, if it wouldn't have been for you, the chaos we've been going through with all of the issues we have to deal with would have been a lot more difficult. But you always gave us your support, your energy, your professionalism, your follow-through, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you, and your dad up there, Harold, as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Labange.
Lorraine, you're all right, Lorraine. You really did this job well, and I just want to thank you, and I'm happy for you. I hate to see all the people leaving who have been so helpful to all of us, but it's important, and I say this because John Farrar never got a fourth chapter, nor really did Tom Bradley. So get that fourth chapter and enjoy your life and do whatever you choose to do. Thank you for all you have done to keep the record straight for this city council. Bye,
Thank
Lorraine.
you.
Mr. Parks.
I just would like to say I really appreciate this recognition. I've always just tried to do my job, and to receive this recognition, I can't tell you how much it means to me. And close your ears, I won't necessarily miss the work, but I will absolutely miss the people that I've had an opportunity to work with. Over the 30 years, it's just been absolutely wonderful. It's been a wonderful career, and I look forward to taking a lot of the friendships with me as I transition into the next part of my life. But thank you very, very much.
We wish you well, Lorraine. Congratulations to you. Thank you. Our next presentation, Ms. Hahn.
Colleagues, this is a really great presentation, and I'm very pleased to honor the Wilmington Middle School robotics team. And this is a great team that beat 23 other teams to win a robotics competition in Manhattan Beach. The tournament was part of the first LEGO League, which supports children 9 to 14 years old in learning about engineering by building robots out of plastic Lego parts. And they won a number of awards at the competition, including Best Robot Design, Best Robot Performance, Best Teamwork, and Best Overall Champion. Winning the Best Overall Champion allowed them to qualify for the Los Angeles Regional Championship, where 36 teams from as far away as San Luis Obispo to Palm Springs to San Diego competed. In this tournament, the Wilmington team received another award for Best Robot Design and placed 5th in Best Robot Performance. Now, what's most amazing about this group of girls is that they were formed very quickly in the fall of 2009, and their first big tournament that they won was held only 2 months later, and the championship just a month after that. And none of these young ladies had any prior knowledge of robotics. So I'm sure they're going to be even more successful for the next tournament, and they're already training for that. And because of their success, the number of students wanting to participate has increased dramatically. I'm very proud of you girls. You make your school, your classmates, your parents, the community of Wilmington, the entire city of Los Angeles very, very proud. And I have certificates for each of you, and I wanted to name each of the members that are here today. We have Jasmine Elleron, 12 years old and a 7th grader. Emily Zeladon, 11 years old and a 6th grader. Nancy Perez Castillo, 11 years old and a 6th grader. Maritza Ramos, 11 years old, 6th grader. Katia Asencio, 11 years old, 6th grader. Samantha Melnick, also 11 years old, a 6th grader. And Victoria DeFazio, 11 years old and a 6th grader. Girls, congratulations. We always hear sometimes that girls don't go into engineering or want to learn about these kinds of things. So it's very exciting. You're kind of leading the way. The next generation of girls are certainly going to grow up to be engineers. And did you bring any of the robots here to try out today? No? All right. Well, that's okay. I wanted to bring up, well, I do have a certificate for your principal, Veronica Aragon, and your coach, Mr. Jose Sanchez. And I think the coach is the one that, why don't you come up? Or is the principal here too? Go ahead. You want to, well, come on up. And I wanted to present this to both of you and to the girls and congratulate you on being champions in a very unusual competition that I'm very proud of you for. Congratulations. And either one of you can say something if you'd like. Coach? We can take pictures in the back.
I'm very proud of these girls. Like Ms. Hans said, the team was put up very, very shortly, only 2 months. And, you know, one of the things that I remember the most about them is the hard work that they put in. We're supposed to be working after school from 3 to 4. 4 o'clock will come in and always ask me, can we stay longer? 4:30, can we stay a little bit longer? So they worked very, very, very hard at what they did, and it showed. And the school is very proud of their accomplishment, and they're becoming role models for the school and the community, so I'm very proud for them.
Thank you very much. You want to say something?
Thank you for having us here, by the way.
You want to say something?
Sure. We'd just like to thank Councilwoman Hahn and the rest of the council for recognizing the girls. And I'd like to thank definitely Mr. Sanchez and the girls for the hours and hours and hours they've dedicated of their personal time after school and on weekends to win this award. Thank you.
Congratulations. And I have certificates for each one of you girls, and we'll go present those in the back. Girls roll.
Thank you, Councilmember Hahn. Thank you for being here as our guests. And we also have, I believe it's the final presentation, Councilmember LaBonge for Councilmember Wesson. It's the June Ang Art School.
Ricardo, your grandma.
We're going to step back a little. Come on right through here. And why don't you get in front of the podium?
Councilmember LaBonge.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reyes. Let's give Mr. Reyes a big hand as he takes over the council presidency right now. I appreciate that, Ed. With us today, on behalf of Council Member Herb Wesson, we will be presenting these very special certificate to the June On Student Art Contest winners. And I'd like all these children to come forward, to come in front of the podium here so everybody can see it. These young students have worked very hard in this contest to refine their skills and participate in providing hope and pride to all youthful participants who express talent in art, but also draw more attention in regards to the art for the Korean community as a whole. As you know, the Korean community is very special, as all communities are in Los Angeles, for their interest in art, culture, and traditional matters. Now, this event, students have had the opportunity to learn about their peers' artwork as well as compete with the peers at the same time. Every year, approximately 1,000 students ranging from all ages, kindergarten to high school, participate in this contest. So I'm pleased, on behalf of Council Member Herb Wesson, to salute all of you students as the June On Students Art Contest winners 2010. Now, help me here, right here. And I am going to make the presentation as we will, but I want to ask any of the children here if you'd like to say a few words and express yourself verbally as opposed to artistically. Say a few words. Just say how important it is to you. Huh? How about this guy? I think he's ready to be up here. Yeah, say just a I got him right here. There we go. Hold up right there. Good job. Come right down. Bend down a little. Good job.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Fantastic.
Good job. You want to say something? Anybody else? Let's give them all a big hand for being great students.
All right. Well, thank you, Councilman Labange. You've created some memories for our young people there. Fantastic, and congratulations.
All right. Let's thank the mothers, the fathers, the brothers and sisters, the grandparents of these students who really, I'm sure, inspired them. Give them a big hand there.
Congratulations, and have a great day.
Mr. President, I'm going to retreat to the room. Follow me, folks.
Thank you. That will wrap up, I think, our presentations for today. Is that right? We have no further presentations. I want to thank everybody for taking the time out on this Friday, as we do each Friday, to celebrate important occasions, dates, people, and employees of the City of Los Angeles who have served us well. And we congratulate everybody on their accomplishments for today. We have already called the roll, and we've run through the initial business. If we can run through the agenda at this point. First item, please.
On item 1, the clerk's office received the mayor's veto of footnote number 1 under mayor and council on page 42 of the budget resolution. 10 votes are required to override the mayor's veto, and there is a card on that item.
Okay. And procedurally, if does that stay on for a period of time, regardless of whether there's action taken, or can it be received and filed, or can if there's
council
no
would take
to
a vote.
override, what is the procedural? Okay, so you can vote to sustain. I'm just letting council members know. We'll wait on that, and there's cards on that as well. But you can go to the next items then.
Items 2 through 4 are items for which public hearings have been held. No action is required on item 2.
Okay, no action on item 2. There's been a request to continue items 3 and 4 for a week and a half until Tuesday the 15th. Is there any objection to that, colleagues? If not, 3 and 4 will continue to the 15th then of June. Next items, please.
Items 5 through 14 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration. There has been a request to continue item 5 to Tuesday, June 8th.
Okay.
Item 7 to June 18th. And item 14 to July 2nd.
Okay, if there's no objection to those, we'll continue those 3 items, items 5, 7, and 14.
And there are cards on 11 and 12.
Okay, we'll call those special cards from the public. Are there other specials from the section, colleagues? So we have 6 through 13 left. Any specials, 6 through 13? 13 from... All right, Mr. Parks, 13. Any other specials? Oh, okay. If not, let's take up the balance. That would be 6, 8 through 10. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved. If we can now go back to our general public comment. Mr. Zine, did you have on the special meeting? Yeah, we'll come to that in a second. We have Antonio Ramirez is our first speaker. I want to welcome you and thank you for your patience. Dr. Clyde Williams will follow her. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. This is a matter of principle. I honor and deeply venerate all our military veterans, and it is my genuine hope to phase out all homeless shelters and immediately house all our wounded military veterans and their families. Let's eradicate all these self-serving charitable leeches. Today, I am so very happy, honored, humbled, and eternally grateful to the following: all the military aviators, even those who fly over 20,000 feet in altitude. Gentlemen, keep your eyes on that altimeter. The United States Coast Guard, the United States Marine Corps, the United States Army, the United States Navy, the United States Navy SEALs, the United States Air Force, the United States Department of Defense, the United States National Guard, the United States top brass, and the United States top brass Pentagon officials. all commercial airline pilots, the Sheriff's Department pilots, the Police Department pilots, the Gillespie Airfield Daredevil Extraordinaire pilots in San Diego, and to all the choppers, Hueys, Cobras, Apaches, C-130s, and the Dragonflies. Thank you for this great ease, maneuverability, sharpness, alertness, precision, flexibility, equilibrium, and pizzazz coordination in your flying techniques. I love aviation, and I've deduced all pilots are chosen by the universe because they all have a sixth sense, intuition, exuberance, zest, excitement, passion, non-fearful, non-pussies, love of humanity, and the love and deep reverence for creation. Thus, they are natural selection, baby. They are natural selection. The whippersnappers of the skies. Naturally, my pilots are an emblem of life, liberty, justice, freedom, happiness, and the right to assert the First Amendment, freedom of expression. Notoriously, there will be an air show at the Gillespie Field in San Diego, June 5th and 6th, tomorrow, sponsored by the Air Group 1 Commemorative Air Force Wings over Gillespie. And incidentally, my greatest military test pilot buff is Chuck Yeager, a military aviator who broke the sound barrier on the X-1 research rocket aircraft.
Thank you very much. Again, just a reminder that general public comments for items not on our agenda but under our direct jurisdiction. Dr. Clyde Williams is our next speaker, and then Arnold Sachs will follow.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115. Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Yesterday, the Cultural Heritage Commission voted unanimously to oppose the North Spring Street Viaduct widening and rehabilitation because there's just not enough information provided in the quotes final EIR. They completely disregard several things, including the Cornfields Arroyo Seco request that the Spring Street Bridge only have 2 lanes, that is, 1 lane each way, plus wide areas for pedestrians and such. One of the reasons that was given for approving it by the Board of Public Works was that Council District 1 had approved it, or had agreed with it, or had done something that approved it in the minds of the Board of Public Works. This is one of many bridges on the LA River that give a distinctive character to the LA River view. The 6th Street Viaduct, Riverside Bridge, Broadway Bridge, all of these are undergoing renovations, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. So there will be some contests undertaken after the City Council gives the certification of the EIR. So please reconsider, put it back. You know, we may lose $40 million because the bureaucrats didn't get it to the various authorities in a timely fashion. They don't provide enough information to evaluate the impacts, and there are impacts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker. After that is John Walsh.
Thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. I was reviewing some papers, and because, fortunately, the DWP was on your agenda, now you've taken it off. But one of the things I was reviewing again was this fiasco with this $70 million payment that was supposed to be made by DWP. And I got to thinking that the budget just put out by DWP is like for $240 million, $260 million to be paid to the city next year or the fiscal year in 3 payments. So let's say it's $240, that would be $80 million of payment. Well, $70 million of payment was budgeted for last year. It was budgeted. Now the 3rd payment is due. And all of a sudden, they need a rate increase to make the payment. So that means they spent the money because they don't have the $70 million to pay. Yet, while you're talking about the rate increase, nobody's asking where the $70 million went. Because they should have, they budgeted it. we budgeted $240 million, $230 million to pay the city. Just like this year, we're budgeting $240, $260 to pay the city next fiscal year. Now, when April comes around next year and they say we don't have the money, well, that means they blew their budget, which means they spent the money. So where'd the money go? Who's in charge? Now, I know that they're going to face the wrath of this fiscal inquisition and the tough questioning that they get from city council. But nevertheless, we're at $70 million. In addition, in today's newspaper, the mayor debuts LAX Security Alert Program. Basically, a see something, say something. So I see something. You may have read about this producer who was accused of murder in Mexico. He left Mexico without his passport and got into the country. That's a violation of the Homeland Security Act. You need to have a passport to come back into the country. That's a violation.
Mr. Sachs. John Walsh is our next speaker. After that is Adele Wallace.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Since November 28th, 500,000, 6 months, 500,000 visits. You know, I'm not a Johnny-come-lately. First time I appeared in front of this august body was 1988. Joel Wax was up there, a real gentleman. And I like to say that in those years, I've also managed to squeeze in a quarter of a century career as an LAUSD teacher. So don't think that I come here as my be-all and end-all. And my great goal is to be still here giving you what for long after all the people up here have been termed out. I will still survive. When you are just misty, watercolored memories of the way the City Hall was, John Walsh will be speaking up for the small people, for the little guy and gal. And incidentally, I noticed Rosendahl endorsing. You hear him endorse Janice Hahn. He's allowed to do it. Well, I'm endorsing for Mr. Cooley, our DA. It's time for us to go into the Republican primary, vote there if we're declined to stay, and make sure the two Tea Party people who are trying to destroy Cooley don't get to destroy him. Go to we put a new post up today. We have a post about the nuclear option. There's a top secret plan to use nuclear device to stop the pipeline oil spill. If you don't believe it, come to our website. It's there. HollywoodHighlands.org. And Bob Stevenson, yes, a great gay activist, and incidentally, an appearance on the I Love Lucy show. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Adele Wallace is our next speaker. And then Joan Kramer.
Hi, I'm
morning.
Adele Wallace. I'm a librarian with Los Angeles Public Library. And as you may know, we have received thousands of postcards from library supporters. So I'm going to read a few of them to you. Please do not close our kids' future. Knowledge is power. Keep libraries open. Our kids need them. It's better keep kids in the library than on the streets. It's more expensive kids in jails than kids in libraries. This one is addressed to the City Council and the Mayor. It is despicable the massive cuts that you people are proposing for LAPL that provide such wonderful materials and knowledgeable staff citywide. You do not value your community and its needs. You just play politics. Come off it. Harriet Strauss, President of the Platt Library Friends. This is our family, our lifeline. Don't close the libraries. I would love to keep the library open because there are many people that don't have computers or books, and if you want to have a better future for America, this would be necessary. I think this library should stay open because after school children come here to be on computers and study, and it would be better instead of these children in the streets. Public libraries rank next to police as necessary and irreplaceable government services. Please don't close the library. I love to read and learn. Most of my free time is spent there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adele. Joan Kramer is our next speaker, and then Royce Stone will follow. Good morning.
Good morning. This is my first time in the City Council, although I've lived here for 50 years. I'm a retired school librarian. We're having the exact same fight in our libraries that you're having with your city libraries, and so I'm here to support the city librarians. As a child, my family had nothing, and I know you may not believe that, but we didn't know where our next meal was coming from. But we always had the library. So I guess I'm fairly emotional about this, excuse me, but when I could go and get 10 books every week to take home and read, I thought I was rich. And I still think children deserve to have their libraries. And I just want to read one postcard that was sent in Spanish, and it's very beautiful. Mi familia y yo amamos nuestra librería. Nos encanta estar aquí. Es un lugar donde nos juntamos frecuentemente, 3 veces o más por semana. Y por favor, pedimos, no la cierran. Lo necesitamos. Gracias, Estela. And I hope you all understood that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Royce Stone is our next speaker. You had to leave? Okay. Dina Gould. After Ms. Gould will be Elizabeth Salazar. Good morning. Thank you for your patience as well.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Dina Gould, council people. I'm here to let you know that I am an 11-year clerk with the Los Angeles Public Library. More importantly, I am a 40-plus year user of LAPL, and I'm asking you to support the public services at the library. Your homework has been done for you with the Coalition's strong budget proposal. MCs are apparently most at risk. This is the staff that shelves all the materials. We risk to lose half of that staff. How will the librarians find the materials if they're not shelved? I also am going to read a few postcards from patrons of the library. Hello, my name is Adriana, and I am a sophomore at Benjamin Franklin High School. I believe that the libraries play a real important role in the lives of the students in LA. The library provides the extra resources that the internet at home could not provide. So it is extremely important for the library doors to be open for more hours, including Sundays. Thank you, Adriana. Next card, please don't take away the libraries. They are the real reason I learned how to read. From Robert. Libraries are important because the things we get, like books, help us read better and learn bigger words. This is from Melanie. Next card, I need this library to stay open. I am a college student and this library is close to me to be able to do my homework and college research paper. From Paula. Put money in our library because I come here every day. Thank you so much, City Council people.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming in. We appreciate your comments. Elizabeth Salazar is our next speaker. After that is Miriam Tuchton.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Salazar. I'm a clerk typist for the LA Public Library, and I'm here to read some of the postcards for you. First one, libraries are our investment in the future. Please don't close them. Juliana, do not cut library resources. Poor communities will not be able to pay or buy books, videos. Please save our libraries. Lulu. I am a teacher of a local school. I have been part of the district for many years. I believe the library provides resources for teachers, parents, and most important, students. Please keep them open. Please do not punish our children for your inability to solve the budget mess you created. Jeff. Save the library. to preserve our history and education. Please save the library. The library provides books, videos, and internet time I need for school. Please save our library. Books are amazing. Why would you take them away? It's important to us. Please do what you can to help my son access to the library as soon as possible. He's learning English. We already have enough illiterate people, so please don't shut down the libraries. That would be stupid, stupid, stupid. As a LAUSD high school teacher, please, please, please keep the libraries open. Libraries are a vital part in our communities. Please keep them funded. It's important. Please save the library. We need them. Save the library. It's important for our children to grow up in a safer and better place. We need our future for all. I always see parents with their children at the library in the weekends. It's the best place for families to grow and learn together. I need books. I don't have any at home. Please don't close the library because my big sister needs to study for school. Thank you.
Thank you. Miriam Tuchin? I'm sure I mispronounced that.
My name is Miriam Touchton. I'm a young adult librarian with the Los Angeles Public Library, and I also have some postcards that I'd like to read written by the public on behalf of the library. Dear City Council members, of all the ways we might choose to cut costs, there can be none more short-sighted than depriving your citizens of our learning resource. This is from Scott in Granada Hills. Dear City Council members, whoa! Our children in every generation deserve the preservation of our incredible libraries. Help us not to lose this important part of our lives. From Lorraine. The library should remain open because it is a real help to students without computers, says Erica, an LAUSD student. The library is very important to the community, all ages. It's terrible to think that you do not seem aware of its importance, says Mary. I teach at Lincoln High School, and I know many students that use the library when the hours are cut, their education is hurt. Please restore the hours as soon as possible. Save the library. Our children's lives depend on it. Knowledge is truly power, says Damien. Our school libraries are closing. In this economy, many parents cannot afford to buy books, so our libraries must stay open. Emmy, from Granada Hills. Please, please do not close my library. I have enjoyed free books for over 80 years and still do. Think of our youth and their exposure. This is from Joyce. Me and my kids need the library. We are always checking out wonderful books, says Isabel. Please save LA libraries. I'm studying English and I need books. Nastya. What would we do without our books? Asks Tim. The library is important to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your service as well. Kathy Ellie? Kathy L. And then we have Sofia Simon Getato Carpeño Vega.
Okay, hello. I am aware that you are considering staffing the library with one paid professional and the rest volunteers. As the head of the John C. Fremont Library, I can tell you this will be devastating to the services the library provides. Currently, we have 3 librarians for children's, young adults, and adults. How can one paid professional serve the whole demographic, reading reviews, keeping abreast of the literary trends, and knowing your community's interest in order to select materials for that particular library? Will the paid professional visit high schools, junior highs, English as a second language classes, attend neighborhood councils, do story times, programs for children, young adults, and computer classes? Someone has to be at the desk checking out books, someone has to put the books back in the shelves, and someone has to answer reference questions. How can you expect volunteers to consistently and reliably donate their time to provide all the core labor to keep the library running? And what about the unexpected problems that arise? I can tell you they are very frequent. Arguing about fines happens all the time. A volunteer will not put up with this unpleasant task. At the library I worked at before Fremont, there were 2 shootings outside. We needed the whole staff to come together when we were on lockdown. And on the side, I had some humor, even though this is true. I frequently get called names, even though I'm a nice person. There are many things I don't tell my parents about. The library is very important, and we need to keep it functioning with paid staff. That will be the only way it will run. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Ivan Correño Chavez.
Yes, this is actually baby Sofia Simon Hecato Corpeño Vega. She's my granddaughter, and we thought it was important to bring her to City Council because she's the eyes of history, although she fell asleep after waiting for so long. But anyways, it's important for her to be here. When she grows up and she's wondering what happened to her city, she'll be able to point to this moment and take it from here and say, well, what happened to my city? These people could have done something to save the city for me, and what happened? So that's why she's here. So she's your silent witness, and unfortunately, she cannot see you, but she saw you earlier, and I wish she could have seen you, okay? And, her parents think it's important, and she's already a veteran of many demonstrations and many lobbying efforts, okay, because her mother is very active politically, and so she takes her along, and we've even been to Washington together, and so she's here to be a silent witness. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Sorry? You can only collectively do 2 minutes, but if you want to say, you had about 30 seconds left.
Well, thank you for your time, and please reconsider your cut.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mary Marr is our next speaker. After that is Yvonne Tremble. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Mary Marr, and I work at the Durant Branch Library, and I've been there since March 2007, and this is my 4th City Council meeting, and it seems like it's getting better. Anyway, I'm going to read all the cards. I'm going to try to read as many cards as I can from patrons, and I hope you do take them seriously. I know patrons are extremely concerned about this situation. It's from Grace. Dear City Council, please don't cut back on hours or employees here at the Granada Hills branch. My family and I use this library for recreational reading and school assignments. It is also very close to where we live. Libraries are as important as police and fire. Please keep the libraries open. Please do not cut the library budget. The library is an essential resource to the community. Lauren, please don't cut the library's funding. I use this place as a study hall, any place to tutor my kids. I can't afford to buy books. I need this place. Rebecca. Please keep our libraries open. I go every week, and I value it more than any city service. Sylvia. I bring my grandkids to the library for books. Don't cut hours. Stay open. Raphael. Please do not cut the library hours. My kids do their homework and do research. Donna. Please keep our libraries open. They are the best deal around. Stella. We need our libraries. Books are not obsolete. Our children need access to interesting stories. Lopez. The LA Public Libraries are an important public resource. Please do not cut the budget for this much-needed resource. Helen. Please don't close the library. My children need the library. I want the library to stay open. Evans Adult School. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your service as well. Yvonne Tremble is our next speaker, and then Timothy Butcher.
Hi, my name is Yvonne, and I work at the Robertson Library as a clerk typist, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. The cards...
If you could just get a little closer, we can hear you better.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have just a few cards. The library is the best source of information we have. We use it constantly. Don't cut the budget for our sakes. Resident from Chatsworth. The library is a valuable asset for individuals, young and elderly. It is a vital part of our community and the educational process. To cut the funding for libraries would be a grave mistake on the part of our government. From Charisse. And the last one is, we would be lost without our local libraries. Please, no cuts, from Ed Orozco. And thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, and thank you for your service as well. Timothy Butcher is our next speaker.
Mr. Padilla, welcome back. I would just like to echo some of the sentiments that have been expressed here. Please consider the coalition's options. We can get out of this. We can get out of this mess together. We've given you a workable solution, and there is still some time left. There's another comment I'd like to make by way of a question. I was concerned curious if there was any way that, even during public comment, that the council would have some way of, filtering out untrue statements or things that are not factual. By way of example, I know for a fact that Ms. Hahn's campaign has been progressing forward and is robustly moving ahead, and I've heard several times stated in here in public comment that it's closing down and not going forward. And I was just curious if there was any way that facts could be checked and at least mention made that things are either not factual or if there's any process for that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's our last speaker. As with Mr. Walsh raised it, as you did, the city attorney has opined because it is relevant to whether she's working here or not. It is something that is germane to us, and we haven't stopped you from talking about it, Mr. Walsh, nor Mr. Butcher today. Obviously, we can't campaign here, but we appreciate everybody's public comment, and that will close our general public comment for today. If we can go to the items we have before us, item 1 first, which is the mayor's veto, and we have 2 public comment cards. Arnold Sachs is our first speaker.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. Again, I reiterate the part of the mayor's boycott dealing with the gang intervention programs that he took out of the budget, and my concerns regarding the gang intervention programs, and the fact that you want to cut the library hours, which is essentially a part of neighborhood policing in a broad term, but really not so broad, because it's an integral part of having something to do for the youth, that they can go someplace after school and get off the streets. So you're cutting off your nose to spite the face. It just doesn't make sense. And yet, when you look at the DWP, and they're getting $750,000 to administrate a program which costs 20% higher than what it would cost for the city to administrate, or the fact that they spent $70 million that was budgeted to come to the city and nobody raised an eyebrow, or at LAX where they just renovated the Tom Bradley terminal, supposedly under budget, but they're going to have to tear down $100 million of the new renovations, which is actually $10 million more than the $90 million they were supposed to tear down. So just what budget are they talking about? Because they said, we'll do $90 million in April. It was $90 million, and after the renovations were done, it's $100 million. So the fact that you have this fiscal whirlpool and the keepers of the values sit around the horseshoe practicing flatulence just doesn't get it. You're cutting libraries. You're cutting gang intervention programs. Cut yourselves.
John Walsh is our next speaker.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Notice when I'm on your side, there'll be no heckling of me. You know, remember, no matter who you are, at some point I'm going to be your ally, because I'm not an ideologue. I go after when you're wrong, left, right, or center. Only Nazis are the only ones I will never defend. And as far as stopping him from speaking, extraneous remarks, quote, extraneous remarks should be filtered out of any address to the government and should never be tolerated. Is there a way? Oh, the quote is from Heinrich Himmler of the Third Reich. Yes, there's a way to get rid of me. Have those people arrest me. That's the way it is, and I hope you saw it on...
Sorry, sir, this isn't an ongoing dialogue on general public comment. We're on the mayor's veto. If you could address the mayor's veto. Thank you. Sorry, sir. Here, we'll do that in public comment. Thank you very much, sir.
You didn't stand up. Owners of slums, slumlords came here, and they bought off Rosendahl, and they bought off Koretz, who's a Jew like I am. You should be ashamed of voting. And I'm telling you, and this man's a Catholic, the way my father was. You should be ashamed, too. I think he's going to twist his arms, your arms, and I guess Rosendahl and Koretz being the weak sisters here, that's a phrase, weak sisters. I didn't invent it. You are not going to stand up to the mayor. Stand up to the mayor. You know what my parents told me? Bullies. If you fight back, they run away. And I found that true for my entire life, even over here. If you fight back, the bully runs away. And you know the mayor? He's out of it. He's finished. HollywoodHighlands.org to find out what's really happening in this damn city.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Sexist comments aside. We have now before us item number 1, which is the veto. Before us, I understand there's been considerable conversations, and the mayor's veto message yesterday had a commitment to a number of items that were asked for. That was the purpose, I believe, of the footnote that the mayor vetoed. So I don't know, Mr. Parks, if you want to talk about the motion that you and or Mr. Cardenas are going to be introducing that I believe resolves that issue.
Yes.
We can take
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, from the last 2.5 years as we've gone through the grid, and I think a number of items that came out of our ad hoc gang committee, there's been concerns about transparency of the dollars, $17 million, the amount of rollover money, whether everyone felt comfortable with their vendors and were they getting service. And so with that, there have been a lot of requests. I know individual motions asking for information that was not forthcoming. There was also a number of times that in financial status reports, we actually asked the CAO to recover some funding or recover some information, but that information was not available at the time of the financial status reports. And so we put into the budget, which the council approved, a joint jurisdiction of the funds. The mayor and I talked yesterday, and his letter that should accompany his veto message identifies the 2 or 3 areas that are most significant to the council, and that is that we get a airing of the funding and how it's spent in some detail, and secondly, that there is, that's the part of the transparency, but also that we are cooperative partners on the grid specifically and also on the summer night lights, so that we're not left out of the discussion. I think Mr. Cardenas has more detail as it relates to being a part of the ongoing committee that addresses some of those things. But what we intend to do, and we'd have to do it on the Rule 16, is basically request that we basically support the mayor's veto message, but in order to put clearly teeth in to ensure it occurs, is to create a motion for Rule 16 that will come to us Monday or Tuesday, which would be identical to his message, that we can then vote on, which gives us the ability to tie that as a requirement of the budget as opposed to just a gentleman's agreement. And so that's what the process is. And Mr. Cardenas has additional issues, having had the insight of the gang committee and other things that he's looking to amplify that. But I think the key for us on this issue is to replicate the veto message into a motion for Tuesday, and so that therefore we know it's part of the budget, and then we can then manage that as a process, but allow this veto message to go through today.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Mr. Cardenas? Yes, thank you, Councilmember Parks, for bringing us up to speed on the status and what and generically what the veto message referred to. But I would like to do is point out for my colleagues what the veto message that relative to the grid process or the gang programs for the City of Los Angeles that are being run out of the mayor's office. In the process of in the budget process, we had stated and we voted to include into the budget is a stronger nexus between the programs and the involvement of the City Council. And I appreciate the Mayor's veto message, which I'll outline 3 of the bullet points of that veto message, which talks about financial transparency, that the grid office shall provide a complete itemized financial status report to the Council on a schedule concurrent with the City Administrative Officer, financial status report, the FSR. The other bullet point is appropriation of rollover funds. Grid office shall report on the status of all account balances and the intended programming of said balances as part of each year and FSR, and also that the council partnership with grid programs continue. Again, I appreciate that, and it's a little bit different than the budget that we sent the mayor, and the reason why I think that it would behoove us as a council to go ahead and follow up with a motion is to codify the intent of the mayor's veto message, because it's my understanding that the veto message, as Bernard Parks, Councilmember Parks just described, is more of a gentleman's agreement rather than something that's codified and something that will be followed through and something that has to be adhered to. So in that spirit, what I'd like to do is remind us that if we could go ahead and agree to language in a motion, that motion would have those reiterate that effort that the mayor pointed out in the form of commit to the actions described in the mayor's June 3rd, 2010 veto letter as stated above, and then also to refer for council review all requests for proposals relative to the grid program, including all funding sources, and 3, restructure the grid cabinet to allow for joint council and mayor oversight by including a member of the Budget and Finance Committee and a member of the Public Safety Committee. By adding those 2 members of the council to that oversight committee, again, that would not only be in spirit, but actually ratify that joint effort of making sure that the oversight of the council is actually officially present, rather than just in the form of reports after the fact information from the mayor's office. Again, I think that the spirit of the mayor's veto message carries a lot of what we had sent to the mayor in the budget when it comes to the grid process, yet at the same time, I believe that by adding that additional direct oversight from the council as outlined would be appropriate.
Mr. Garcetti. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you both, Mr. Cardenas and Mr. Parks, for that. I wanted to move a couple things. One would be to sustain the mayor's veto because he has addressed the concerns that were raised, and the motion, which will take the mayor's exact language, will achieve that end, and I appreciate Mr. Parks and Mr. Cardenas' work on that, as well as the mayor's willingness. I think a lot of people sometimes want us to fight out there, but most people actually want us to do the business of the city, to have accountability, transparency, and to move forward a reasonable budget. We have some great librarians I know that were here, and some of them are still here as well, and I just wanted to say something to them in the context of this budget as well, that it was pointed out the strong budget from the Coalition of City Unions points the way where we don't have to make any of these cuts or put anything on here with furloughs, layoffs. And I want them to know how seriously that budget was taken. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Our chief legislative analyst, the number 2 person in the office, dealt with the mayor's budget. The number 1 person in the office, Jerry Miller, dealt full-time with looking at the coalition budget and sitting down with the coalition and saying, here's numbers that you put out there, here's ones that we agree with, here's some where we disagree with the numbers, but we think it's a good idea, and here's some where we don't think it'll balance the budget this year, but let's continue working in those areas, because every bit of new revenue we get in is a job saved, and more importantly, it's services saved. And if it wasn't for the strong budget that was put out, we would have had a much worse budget that was passed. But those numbers aren't automatically the correct numbers, and I think we have agreement on that. For instance, one of the things that was near and dear to my heart, I wrote the legislation on it, was the foreclosure registry, which goes after banks that aren't keeping up their homes that have gone into foreclosure with fines. Other cities have done that. It was estimated that could produce 50 or 60 million this year. When we really scrub those numbers, it's more like 5 million. That will be an important thing to help clean up our neighborhoods, also keep people working, but it isn't enough to forestall any of the cuts. And to pass a budget that is on aspirational numbers means 3 months later you're going to have an even bigger whack than what is proposed in the budget. And I think the best friend we can be to our labor partners is to be honest friends. And we showed that in September when we did the early retirement. We agreed on those numbers and scrubbed them the same way. And I know those are the conversations that are happening right now. For myself, every new dollar that we get should go back to library services and to some of our fire services. That's me speaking personally, not as a council president, but as a council member. And I'm going to be working very hard and talking to our city librarian about how we can achieve that, because I agree with what all those postcards said as well. But I'd formally like to move to sustain the veto that finishes this budget, but also move that the council instruct the city clerk to forthwith sign the modified budget for the ensuing fiscal year 2010-11 as returned by the mayor on June 3rd, 2010, with his approval and veto of footnote 1 as sustained, hopefully, by our council action momentarily on June 4th, 2010, and to file the approved budget resolution adopted by the City Council on May 26, 2010, with the Office of the Controller as provided by the Charter. Mr. Parks, if you wouldn't mind, as Budget Chair, seconding that, it's just it's the motion to formally move it, or Mr. Reyes, Mr. Reyes seconds. That will move the budget forward to the mayor. We thank the mayor's office for their hard work on this, our CAO and CLA, and to every city worker who is working around the clock. Know that we are too. We are part of that same family. We are part of providing those very same services. Any service cut we feel as deeply as any resident here. In fact, we as city employees know it more deeply. It's our co-workers and it's the services that we are tasked with providing. And I remain optimistic that we can make a breakthrough in these next few days to be able to minimize that. It won't happen without any sacrifice, but I think we've shown the willingness to sacrifice. We need to do that. And we've done such a good job that last week Standard & Poor's took us off of negative watch and put us back on stable. That is an achievement that all of our workers and the City Council and Mayor can be very proud of. I move approval.
Mr. Labange. Thank you very much. Mr. President, I want to introduce just real quickly here Jackie Hodge from our Friendship City of London and Jasmine Labange from our Friendship City of London. They're with the City of London. Give them a big hand and welcome them here. And as we go forward on this issue here, I just want clarification. Mr. Miller, I support the mayor, okay? And I want to support the mayor on this. And with the motions and the directions, does it resolve that? It does resolve. Well, you can sit down, Joe. You're a good-looking guy. You can sit down. So this resolves that, and the mayor's deputy mayor of finance is here. If anybody want to say anything to clarify this, it's been a long time, but this will. I support the mayor in his efforts, what he's trying to do, and he stood up and said, I want to deal with the challenges of young people and youth alienation and gangs and all that creation that took place there. And I support the mayor, then I want to support the mayor, but does this reach that goal?
The plan that Mr. Garcetti laid out, yes, it does resolve that.
Yeah. Good. And on the libraries, Jerry, I think we have to, members of council, as we approve this budget, is put a short, double-space, 17, 20-point type, what actually we mean. We've given directive to the library department that they have a budget, but they have to make changes, which ultimately may mean service cuts on Mondays. Is that correct?
That's correct. The city librarian was here and talking to you about how he's going to deal with those cuts and try to manage the hours around the greatest use of the library.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Thank you, Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. One, I'm just very proud to be part of this institution. I know it doesn't sell newspapers when we don't have a big fight on the floor and we're not fighting the mayor and it's a lot of drama. And, you know, that's the way it is. But the fact that I had 3 shootings in Highland Park a few weeks ago, I had 2 homicides. We had the kind of crime that this kind of agreement allows us to hopefully change, so we won't have the environments that create fear and essentially hurts the city in the long run when we cannot speak to the safety of our neighborhoods. So my hats are off to our leadership here in the council, to Councilman Cardenas and Parks, to be able to work with the mayor, and a lot of credit goes to how this city family is working together. This city is one of the role models, and Mayor Villaraigosa and his staff are being spoken to by the Obama administration and others, and how this is going to work and how it affects our neighborhoods. Chief Beck and all of his generals, along with the neighborhood councils, all play a significant role in this. And so how we come together as a city to get out of that negative rating into a positive rating bodes well for our future. But it's because we chose not to follow that tendency that puts our names in the newspapers for the wrong reasons. And that's going to save us a lot of trouble and be constructive in the future. And I'm very, very hopeful that these are good tidings for the future. I want to take a moment to recognize Veronica Calderon. She is a PCC, Pasadena City College student, doing her work in local government. She's from Highland Park. I want to welcome you to the chambers. The first time she's in City Hall.
Please stand so we can acknowledge you.
Please stand, Ms. Calderon. Thank you for joining us. All right. But I thought it was important to recognize, because these are the folks that are learning about how our system works. But more importantly, the actions we're taking today is a very positive step towards progress. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Thank you very much. Mr. City Attorney, you want to define sustain.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just for clarity's sake, Council's motion to sustain the veto, in essence, is pursuant to Charter Section 315, wherein it states, if the Council by majority vote so directs, the budget as returned by the Mayor shall become the general city budget for the ensuing fiscal year and shall not be held for reconsideration.
Is that okay with you, Mr. Parks? All right, so let's open the roll, colleagues. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Forthwith, please. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 11, called special for cards.
Number 11. HollywoodHighland.org. John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at you know what. I'm cleaning up around here. Now, you're not supposed to be eating here. They had a big reception for the honorees, and it wasn't the children that did this. There were some of these wonderful honorees. You spent 2 hours kissing them. Look at this trash. Look at this. Is there anybody would like to take this trash off my hands? I'm not charging you for the labor
Sergeant, can we get a trash can over there? Thank you.
No. He is an officer. It would be an indignity for him to do that.
Well, we're going to get a trash can for you. Can we get a trash can over there,
A
please?
woman. No. I want the people in charge of...
Mr. Alarcon will give you a trash can.
I want the people...
Mr. Alarcon, thank you.
And try recycling that leftover coffee. You might try recycling. And incidentally, we aren't able to buy a cup of coffee here unless we're invited to a
Mr. President, it doesn't
reception.
appear he's talking about this street vacation.
The city attorney,
Wait, what
he
street
makes
vacation?
Scrooge look like Father Christmas. I'm asking you,
Mr. Walsh, can you come back to the item, please? Mr. Walsh, please come back to the item. I'm sure you have some good comments on
I
it.
just want to say these street vacations.
There you go.
They vacated a street on my block. You want to get your street vacated and give it to private property, to a property owner. That's what it's all about. It's about vacation, private property being vacated, a public property being vacated to a private property owner. This city does more street vacations than anyone else. And a little later, I'm going to go down and try to buy a cup of coffee. When you took the cafe out, I'm going to bang on the door. HollywoodHighlands.org, 2 new blogs, Mickey's Point of View and mine right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Do you take your coffee with cream and sugar, sir? Thank you. Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, on that item, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Next item, please.
Item 12, called special for cards.
Number 12. We have John Walsh once again. Mr. Walsh, number 12, please.
When you go into the special meeting, please reopen number 17 about fare hikes and service cuts on the LADOT. I'd just like to finish by saying that what you have here is another reception. This is about receptions. There are too many receptions, too many trashy paper plates over here, too many people drinking coffee in here. When you close down the cafe, this is the only public building in Los Angeles where you can't even buy a cup of coffee because you're trying to kick us out of here by denying us the amenities. HollywoodHighlands.org. Find out what's really happening in the Gulf. Thank you.
All right, on that matter, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Next item, please.
Item 13, called special for Councilmember Parks.
Mr. Parks, number 13, sir. And there is a card, Mr. Parks. Where is Mr. Parks? The card first, okay. And Mr. Walsh is the card, but thank you. Thank you for waving, Mr. Walsh. Your time's up anyway, according to the clerk. Thank you, Mr. Parks.
I would ask that we have a unanimous vote on a reward motion, and we ask the public's help on an incident that occurred on January the 24th, 2010, approximately 12 a.m. Dante Lamont Cotton was returning to his residence in the area of 1600 block of West 60th Place when he was shot by an unknown suspect. The suspect exited a white four-door sedan and shot Mr. Cotton several times, striking him once in the back. The vehicle fled westbound on 60th Place. Cotton was transported to a nearby hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. LAPD has asked for this reward in hopes that they would be able to bring witnesses forward. It's a $50,000 reward. We'd ask anyone that has information on this case to contact Detectives Pierce or Garza at Criminal Gang Homicide Division at 213-485-1383, and ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. On that item, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Very well. Next item, please.
Would council like to recess the regular meeting and go into the special meeting?
Yes, we will do that.
Okay. Alarcon, Cardenas, Han, Weezer, Koretz, Krikoyan, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wessenstein, Garcetti, 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
On item, please.
Item 15 through 17 are items for which public hearings have been held. On item 17, there is a majority and minority report. The majority report is before council.
Okay, so we have cards, but we've already had a public hearing on that. Is there any council member who wants to open the public hearing on those items? Seeing none. Mr. Labange, Mr. Cardenas?
Yes.
Mr. Rosendahl?
Special 15 through 17.
Do you want to open the public hearing on those items? That's the question. We have cards on a number of these items.
Sure.
They've already had a hearing.
Yeah, we've had a hearing. I didn't see the number.
You're the chair. It's up to you.
I'm always for...
All right, then we'll open up the public hearing on those items. Mr. Labange?
Mr. City Attorney, in doing my duty as a council member after I left the press room and greeted the children for the Korean art show, I passed a group of citizens in the pews, and they couldn't see these numbers up on the board. I inquired and informed them that they were probably taken on consent. That being stated, I don't know if they filled out a card, and I tried to look for them after I found out that it wasn't consent.
This is a special meeting, that's why.
I understand that, but I'm talking to the city attorney because I informed the public that their matter was taken because it wasn't up on the board.
Okay.
Okay, so they had left the building. I want you to think about that and then advise us, because I did a disservice thinking I was doing a service. So think about it and then let me know.
It just seems to be an inadvertent error that you made. It doesn't affect the legality of council, what council will be doing, and there already has been a hearing on this, on these items.
All right, I got that. But if members, I would ask, if on next Tuesday, if these people contacted, say, you told us this matter was approved, maybe they'll be happy with our action. If they're not, I would like to then we reconsider Tuesday. I just put that out.
If you were to do that, then I would suggest not sending these items forthwith.
Very well.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Madam Clerk, those items again for the public comment cards. The numbers?
15, 16, and 17. I'll have cards.
13, 16, and 17. Dr. Williams. We're going to take them all together. Dr. Williams, 16 and 17.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. I'm particularly concerned about retaining the schedules, the routes in the Northeast area. A lot of the El Sereno buses, dash buses, and such are the only ways that people can get to the MTA. We have fought 2 years to maintain the bus 256 because it supplements the dash. Without the dash in Northeast LA, we have a lot of problems of getting people, children, elderly, to the bus, the MTA buses, which only do the main routes. So we're quite concerned about that. As far as fares, I'm a senior, so hey, I get a deal. Thank you. But on the other side, Downtown Dash is a different character. And one of the things that I've noticed is that Dash supports a very large amount of all-day parking downtown. I would highly recommend that you include during the next year an item as to increasing the lot fees for day-long parking in the downtown area, say west of the LA River, because the Dash serves those very vitally, and without those the parking lots won't work without the Dash. Without the parking lots, hey, we don't have as many commuters, and they'll be forced to use the MTA like the rest of us do. Thank you.
Thank you. Arnold Sachs on those items.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. My concerns regarding this fare increase are the fact that I believe it was last month, the month prior, when in the Transportation Committee, it was brought to the attention of the committee that the Measure A funds, Prop A funds, the funding was going bankrupt. And yet, I don't understand why it would take a free fall to bring that to the attention of the committee, why it wasn't handled sooner. It's the same committee that took 10 years to negate the free ride for the 7 venues in the city that got public safety patrol officers and parking officers to work the events for free because they had been vetted in a previous council back in 1998. So what the expense on that over the opportunity to provide transportation for the vast majority of the public just doesn't make sense. But on we go. And so my concerns now are, what about the status of Measure C? Is that funding used for any transportation? What's the status of that? I believe President Garcetti stated it was a state funds, but the the outcome and the fallout, the fallout will affect the public. And the effect of the public is, well, we got to cut service and we got to raise the fares. I'm concerned, very concerned.
John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org with Mickey Jackson. Here's a fact you might not know. In the past 25 years, public transportation use, public transit use per capita has gone down 20%. Yes, we've spent billions and billions, and fewer people are using the system. And you want to know the worst, the least used system? You run it yourself. Angel's Flight. Here, they all came out for the first couple of weeks. Let's go out there, up and down, 18 hours a day, largely empty. Tourists wouldn't be caught dead in that neighborhood, and you know it. But that's a deal. They get the deal. We know who's involved with that, who's behind, and they killed a concentration camp survivor. That's why and what's happening over here, LADOT? Right, raise the fare, cut the service, just like MTA. And over at MTA, when they raised the fare and cut the service, there was a riot, and there was civil disobedience, and 2 people were arrested. Over here, it's sort of laid back. It's just LADOT. Who really cares? It's all a joke. But let's face it, the job here is to hold receptions, to purr, to lick like cats licking yourselves, and to call me a sexist. Well, I'm telling you, I just want you to know that you're a weak sister, you're a weak sister, Han is a weak sister, everyone's a weak sister. Yes, I'm politically incorrect. Have them arrest me. And your police are not trash people. They don't pick up trash.
Mr. Alarcon, for the record, did pick up the trash. For the record, it was Mr. Alarcon that brought the trash can. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you. If we could ask the DOT staff to come on up real quick. Okay. I just want to let folks know that DOT has met with community, and a compromise has been reached that will permit us to make the service cuts we need while still providing the necessary transit connection. As I was mentioning to Mr. Koretz, and I didn't mention to Mr. Labange, but the 3 of us were very strong in supporting the 430 bus. And 430 is a bus that goes from the Pacific Palisades to downtown. But when we took a hard look at the $100,000+ spent and the ridership, especially in afternoon, in this day and age, it's something we cannot afford to continue to do. And with that in mind, I'm withdrawing the majority report that sought an immediate increase in fares to preserve the 430 and endorse the minority report that Mr. Parks had and Mr. Smith, which would allow for a tiered fare increase but provide the recommended service cuts we need to preserve the fiscal health of our transit system. The MTA has a van process, and we're in negotiations of how to put that together so that the people in the Palisades will be able to get down, but not a big bus that has no ridership. And if I could ask Jim, before I finish, to just give us the stats, if he could, on the usage of it. But, you know, Measure R, we all know this. During the next 10 years, you'll see a dramatic change in transit, and hopefully this will bring in new rapid bus, light rail, heavy rail, and will really meet the needs that we need to do over the next 10 years, especially the 30-10 plan, which accelerates the use of Measure R monies and does in the 10-year period what the plans were for a 30, 40-year period. And everybody's on board for that. So that is where I'm at. And before I turn it over to Jerry, Miguel, and Rita, could you just give people a sense of the ridership in the 430 and how the 431 and a van might work on that?
Excuse me, Mr. Alarcon has a point of information on this matter.
Sure. I've never
never seen a majority report withdrawn. I don't know how one person can do that. So technically, I just want to make sure we're correct. So the process would simply be to support the minority report.
That's right.
As opposed to supporting the majority report, but we're not withdrawing it.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, what happened was the five-member committee, when we met on that, both Mr. Labange and Mr. Koretz.
So you're supporting the minority report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I
Thank you
just
for that
announced here.
clarification.
Please just give us some stats, would you, Jim? Just grab the mic up.
Yeah, Phil Aker, Department of Transportation. What we have with Commuter Express 430 is 2 trips to downtown Los Angeles, which also go to Loyola High School in the morning. Probably 20 to 24 riders on each trip, the majority of which get off at Loyola High School. In the afternoon, the first bus has about 8 to 10 riders from downtown, 1 or 2 from Loyola. The second bus, when we did our ride check, had 0 riders. And for a month's survey, we found, I think, a high of 4 riders and a number of trips with 1 person on that second trip. So what we're proposing is Metro runs Metro Line 2 from the Pacific Coast Highway to Westwood, where we meet the Commuter Express 431. That service has 4 trips to downtown in the morning and 4 trips back in the afternoon. We're proposing to reroute that to serve Loyola, just as the 430 does now, and also to go over to Union Station. So that'll provide 2 options. Either people can be dropped off at a park and ride lot in Westwood, take 1 of 4 trips to downtown, or they can take the Metro Line 2 along Sunset Boulevard and transfer in Westwood. And so that actually it's a little better level of service, and we feel that that's an appropriate compromise, because really what we're running is, in the afternoon, a van pool.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line. And as we look at our dramatic cuts we're doing in so many departments that affect so many people, the politics, obviously, for me to save it because it's the Pacific Palisades and geographic equity was my main fight. But the truth was, when we figured out another way to do it and save how much? 170 million? 170,000. 170,000 on that. I think we all know, colleagues, that there are various services and various situations that we had yesterday that we don't have today and won't have tomorrow until the revenue streams pick up again. We all know that in our own districts, various parts of the Department of Transportation staff that we have relied on in various ways, as Ms. Robertson will explain, are no longer going to be able to provide that same level of service. So the day has now come. The day of reckoning has now come, where in our next fiscal year, 2010-2011, there will be cutback in services, not just the library, not just the rec and park, but also in the Department of Transportation. And with that as an opening, I turn it over to the department to give us a quick rundown on everything. Thank you, colleagues, for that.
Ms. Robinson, please.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to move the minority report. Mr. Parks seconds that as the action taken by us.
Rita Robinson, Department of Transportation. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. We seriously, over the past few years, have approached the discussion of our transit system within the municipality of the city of Los Angeles being a small part of a larger regional situation, and the shortfalls that we were beginning to forecast over the last few years. So progressively, we've been coming to this point over the last 5 years to a point where, due to the economic downturn and everything else, we realized that in order to provide sustainability to our transit program, we had to make some tough decisions. The staff has very much taken a very serious look at services on a line-by-line basis, on all the services we provide throughout the city, where those sources of funds are and the cost of those programs. And we've been trying to be able to provide to you a very reasonable
principled approach to this with a lot of public outreach and hearings to discuss what we have presented in our report. We realize that in this very difficult time of making cuts in libraries and teachers and everything else, that this too is one of the things that we've had to grapple with, but in our inability to make this decision now, we'll have to make such a drastic cut in the future. We tried to find a measured approach to both the rate increases for our fares as well as the cuts of services that had other options and potential for continuing transit services to our residents. The mayor and his staff reviewed our proposals and made it part of his proposed budget. We wanted, the Budget and Finance Committee wanted to take it out so that you would have more time to review it and have a direct discussion about it, both at our joint committee and now at the full council. And we are very, we as a staff are also concerned about some of the cuts that we've had to make, but we've tried to approach it from a direction that everybody takes a little bit of pain, but we still continue service throughout the city. And our failure to do nothing at this time will result in such a drastic cut in the future. We were trying to find a way that we could salvage transit within the city of Los Angeles. And we're working very closely with both the City Administrative Office as well as the CLA on this project. We've had a very inclusive discussion with the community, and we've taken the community into account in many of these discussions in terms of the hearings that we've had, and tried to take their suggestions into our final decisions that we brought forth. I'm not sure exactly if there are questions that you want us to answer, but that's the approach we took.
We have a number of colleagues that have questions. Mr. Cardenas?
Thank you, Mr. President. When it comes to the Senior Youth Transportation Charter Bus Program, I'm looking at the current budget year. It says $4.5 million, and in this proposed recommendation, be it the majority or minority report, either one has it down to zero. Can you please describe to us what that program is, and basically, and how it was implemented?
Good afternoon, Jim Lefton with the Department of Transportation. The city has been operating the charter bus program since at least the 1970s. It was under the CDD department, and the Department of Transportation took it over in 1980 with the onset of Proposition A. The program primarily serves youth and senior groups for recreational, educational types of trips. We serve about 10,000 trips a year overall.
Okay, but so how many trips overall, approximately?
About 10,000 bus trips a year.
About 10,000 bus trips per year. And some of those bus trips were arranged through council offices, and other ones were arranged through departments, or how were they arranged?
Yes,
overall?
The $4.5 million budget you mentioned is broken out. Each council office gets about $125,000 a year. The mayor's office gets an allocation, and a number of city departments, such as Rec and Parks and Housing, also get allocations, and they basically arrange for those trips.
Okay. Now, Ms. Robinson, we're looking at, isn't the round figure of this entire item approximately $130 million? What's the actual figure of this item?
Of the entire Prop A budget. Correct.
Prop A budget is about $100 million for the transit program. $60 million or so comes from Prop A, and $40 million from outside funds.
Okay. So with that in mind, I'm looking at all the line items. Some items have been cut, 10%, 4%, 40%, 55%, 10%, 12%, et cetera. That one happens to be cut 100%. But whenever we provide services to the community, especially something that's to seniors and children, and I know from my personal experience in my district, I have one of the more lower income communities, and so my seniors and children, when they get a bus to go someplace or do something, quite frankly, now that the school district has really curtailed tremendously their trips for their school children, there are children in the city of Los Angeles that live 5, 10, 15, 20 miles away from the beach, who've never seen it. And I'm not saying that these buses are taking kids to the beach. That's not my point. But my point is a lot of these kids are not literally coming out of their neighborhoods. And this is perhaps one of the only ways in which they get that opportunity, the modicum of those children who are fortunate to have their organization or their school or their senior centers to actually say, can we have a bus? We'd like to take a trip somewhere. This is really their only avenue for doing that. So what I would like to do is amend the minority report that's before us and ask the department if you could actually scrub from the $4.5 million, if you can actually restore about $300,000 to the portion of the program that would allow the council offices to continue to at least have a modicum of those, and perhaps next year we cut it out completely. 17A? So that's consistent with one of the motions, one of the amendments that's before us? Okay, so I'll hold my thought and I'll push my button again. Thank you.
Mr. LeBonge.
Yeah, this is very critical, Mr. Cardenas just spoke of. I want to know who thought to put it on the table. Did the department think about it? Did the CAO? Did the CLA?
Who recommended to cancel the
To
charter?
cancel it.
The department, in conjunction with its consultant, did a detailed line-by-line analysis of all of the transit services operated by...
I got it, but there's one that, who said, let's get rid of the charter program?
It was a joint decision to eliminate the charter program. We recognize that the charter bus program provides a valuable service to the people who use it. Really, the rationale for recommending the cancellation of the program was based on the fact that the program provides trips which are considered discretionary, as opposed to...
Yeah, all right, I got it, James. Here's the thing, members, and I don't want to cut you off, but they only give you so many minutes here. Members, we have to find a way to help get money back to this. Because there's not too many things that we do that touch people. This morning in the presentation, a number of them were children's groups that have come down here. I'm sure some of them by school buses. And I don't think there's a person in this room that had not been on a school bus in their life that got an experience. And if you can't give people an experience, you can't connect them to the city. So I'd like to ask the CLA to find a way to come back to the council. I think we need more than what 17A says. And also to give an analysis breakdown. Do we have a breakdown, James, of how many were senior groups, how many were school groups? Because much of us, our work is because the school district had to reduce their trips, so we wanted to pick up for them. Do we have an analysis of all the bus?
I believe that we would have information on school trips versus non-school trips. Again, the concern on our end was that if we retain the charter bus program, it would mean that we'd have to cut another program such as DASH, where you have a lot of low-income people.
I got that, but also I look at the DASH and I look at the times that they run, and I know it's all trying to balance out. Members, I just want to say it's extremely important of the things that we do to touch the lives of individuals who don't know us. And those are the children of Los Angeles who get on these buses and go to the Arboretum, go to Exposition Park, go to Cabrillo Museum, go to Venice, wherever the case may be. So I think we really need to enhance our focus on this, because this is a service that will affect people. And even it means some other things. How much of our percentage of our DASH parallels the MTA?
A lot of our DASH services have portions that run on MTA routes,
Right.
but with DASH, they generally run on small segments, and then they turn. There's more circuitous routing.
Right.
So it eliminates transfers.
So I look forward to continued discussion and deliberation on this. This is a very critical issue. Thank you, Department of Transportation.
Mr. Garcetti?
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for your work on this, and the department as well. I just wanted to ask you a couple things in terms of putting some of this in context, because it's very easy to politicize and to talk about whose backs this is on. I think these are some really great numbers. If all the residents of LA were able to chew through the numbers on some of these lines, and I'm particularly proud of the DASH line that's 2 blocks from my house, the Echo Park Pico Union one that has 11,600, or so small, 885, about 12,000 passengers on any given day. Contrast that with some that have 200 and just look at the needs that are being met. I think it is very important for us, as we've done with housing now, as we've done with potholes now, or not, street paving, not potholes, as we've done with job training. We're trying to move services where there's need and not just have the legacy of which council member or which community has the most political juice and pushes through on things. And it's a difficult thing because it all will require sacrifice on something that we got lucky because of a predecessor to give up on and to recognize. And I think that it shows the maturing of this body and the maturing of the city to be able to move towards that. And I know the mayor's office has worked very hard on that too. A couple things in terms of just that basic fact of, I know this has come up in the Metro rate increase. What percentage of our what percentage do user fees cover for Dash? I know it's 10% or so versus Metro on a given line.
Dash generally covers about 12% of its costs through user fees. MTA is in the low 20s.
In the low 20s. So we're about half.
Yes.
And on the senior costs, and it's another place, that some folks came and said, well, you doing this, the biggest chunk is $13 million that's coming in kind of senior disabled services. One thing that needs to be said is we're not cutting those out. We're looking at the cost, which hasn't increased, even as people on fixed incomes have gotten COLAs and other things like that. How do we compare to other jurisdictions, be it the county or any other like ones, in terms of how much we subsidize some of those costs? And what are we doing to make sure that the deepest need on the severely disabled, for instance, who have access services of the county that will still be there, what are we doing to make sure that we're not just, before the headlines say, cutting off seniors and disabled, to make sure that they can continue to get the critical access they need?
Yes, well, I want to point out that the citywide program that we operate is a voluntary program. It's probably the largest voluntary program in the country. In the county and throughout the country, there's a requirement that, through ADA, that there is a provision of ADA accessible service for people that can't use the fixed route system. And in Los Angeles County, that agency is Access Services. So for any individual in the city or the county that's unable to use the fixed route system, they have an unlimited level of service that they can use on Access Services.
By unlimited, you mean fully subsidized, or?
They pay a fee, I think $2.25 for every trip, but they can't be turned down for a trip. So for as many trips as they need, they can...
$2.25, door-to-door service, essentially.
Right. Okay. And then for Cityride, again, that's a voluntary program that provides additional subsidies. It supplements the Access Services program, and we have a very high level of subsidy. We actually started at Cityride a year before Access Services was implemented in 1993. And
Why do we have both? I mean, to the curious person out there, if LA County does that, what need wasn't being met? Is that still the situation? Why do we have both?
Well, again, we started before Access Services took place, and we had a lot of Proposition A money at that time. It does provide service not only to the disabled, which is what Access Services does, but it also provides service to seniors that may not be disabled. Those seniors are not eligible under Access Services. Okay. But the Department of Aging also provides not only they provide a door-to-door service to their various multipurpose centers. So there are layer upon layer upon layer of services that are available for these individuals.
So Cityride will still be available to our seniors. It'll just to go up by how much?
I'm sorry?
It'll still be available, Cityride, to our seniors, but it will increase in terms of the cost from what to what?
We're asking them to pay a little bit more, and we're reducing this level of subsidy, but there's no service or subsidy that they get today that they won't be able to get in the future.
I understand that, but what is that increased cost? What does it mean to a senior?
Right now, they pay $6 per quarter for a low income. That'll go up to $9.
Per quarter, is it?
Per quarter. Mm-hmm. And then for non-low income, they pay $15 now, and they'll pay $21 under the new proposal.
And there's not a per trip cost as well? That allows you to ride for free once you pay that?
What you get for that money is a level of subsidy, like a debit card that you can use for three different things. You can use it to purchase an MTA LD disabled monthly bus pass. Mm-hmm. You can use it to ride on city franchise taxis, mm-hmm. or you can use it to ride on city-operated dollar ride. And so you would use your value that we give you to pay for those services.
But for a Cityride, how much? Then it would be the $2.25?
That's for Access Services.
That's just Access Services. So is there a cost to Cityride for that senior?
It gets a little complicated to explain, but let me give you just a simple way of understanding it. A dollar ride trip that we operate, it costs the city about $28 for every single dollar ride trip that we carry. Mm-hmm. The out-of-pocket cost currently for a Cityride user, a low-income Cityride user, is 28 cents. Right. or about 80 cents for a non-low-income user. So it's extremely subsidized, and we just cannot afford to continue providing those level of subsidies.
And that's the main point I wanted to put out there, because I know we did this in committee. There's a lot of people probably tuning in for the first time. It is still an extremely low percentage of people's income. It's still extremely affordable. We're committed to that. But we also are committed to making sure we maintain service, because having the widest service is what's important. And instead of choosing haves and have-nots of some other places just not having service at all, this preserves that while still allowing the services to continue. And just one last note, and I know I'm over time, I think it's very important for us, the temptation, colleagues, is going to be to look at, as we have in the past, things like Measure R to backfill this stuff. That is not the intent, I think, of what the voters, they want structural fixes, they want structural reform, and not just because one area was displaced to use new dollars to backfill that. That does very little, I think, long-term to solve our transportation and traffic woes, so I hope that we'll hold the line on that.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. I am the next speaker. If you'll please come up to the chair.
Mr. Zion.
Okay, a couple requests on this matter. I understand the issue about funding, and a lot of seniors, a lot of children's groups have used that bus program extensively, so it's a great benefit. But when we have to make cutbacks, obviously, I understand the impact of that also. So I don't criticize the department for what they need to do to tighten up the budget. But a couple issues that came to my attention. One's from a veteran. If we get a report back on this, to consider a possibility of adding veterans to the senior disabled discount program. So if we can verify that they're a veteran, they may not be a senior, but if we can add them and see what the procedure would be to the discount program. And also, the next issue would be to create the multiple trip booklet for those that use the discount rate. So certain individuals get the discount rate, but we don't have the booklet for them. We have the booklet for the regular riders. If we could have a booklet for those that receive a discount rate, which is basically the seniors and the disabled. And then they could buy the multiple book, and it would be easier for them as they use that public transit. And this was brought to my attention by a veteran out in the San Fernando Valley. So if we can get a report back on that, and if it would work, I don't think there'd be, I don't know what demand it would be, but hopefully we can help the folks with that. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Zion. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to tell the LADOT thank you for that line by line, because it really gave a lot of insight. And I think I'd like to just ask the mayor's office, Jaime, to come up and give the mayor's position on these three reports and the condition of Prop A. And also, we can give some insight as to MTA and the costs and issues that you deal with on a regular basis.
Hi, Jaime De La Vega, Deputy Mayor for Transportation. The mayor does support the original LADOT staff recommendation, as well as the minority report that's before council today. Councilman Parks, did you have specific questions?
I just think it would be important, because in committee, people were concerned about our buses being outside the city and where the funds come from, and how that subsidy works through MTA, because it's basically cutting some of these services that people point at could actually reduce money that's coming to the city.
Right. And Mr. Lefton can go into a little bit more detail as well. The city receives a large amount of formula funds from MTA to operate both its Dash and Commuter Express services. Over the last couple of years, the mayor and his appointees at the MTA have successfully increased the amount of formula funding coming to the city, which in part has reduced the need to cut service. Also, an issue was raised at committee about Commuter Express buses going or operating outside the city. What's important to understand about traffic congestion and the related air quality impacts is air quality is a regional issue. So to the extent we can get people off of the freeway and city street network, whether or not they live in the city, that is a benefit to the residents and constituents here in the city of Los Angeles.
Okay, thank you very much. Colleagues, I think we struggled with this for a number of years. I think when I first came on council, We had a similar report, and we didn't pay attention to LADOT, and now we're at a point where I don't think we can ignore their report. I would move that we approve on item 15 the LADOT report, and item 16 that we approve their report, the minority report on 17, that we asked on 17A that Mr. Rosenthal bring that to committee before July 1st so that we could move that. And then also, because we do not have the ordinances today for 15 and 16, that we asked the city attorney to transmit those ordinances so that we can address them on Tuesday.
Ms. Hahn.
Oh, me. Thank you. Well, I'm glad to hear this discussion. It was obviously very troubling to me, and I know we have to make tough cuts, but I think by eliminating, some of our dash hours and services, and certainly eliminating the charter bus program, I think it's a huge hit to our community members, our children. It's sort of the one thing we're able to provide to them. And I don't know about the rest of the council members, but some of the thank you notes I get are the most heartfelt of anything I do. It's because I was able to provide a bus for a senior outing or for a field trip or for some program that in no way could these groups have afforded the cost of securing a bus for themselves. And I will tell you, in 1980, when the voters approved Proposition A, it was to agree everybody pays a half a cent more every time they buy something, every time they have sales tax. It's a half a cent that they pay more. And part of what we promised to those people in 1980 and future generations was a lot of that was going to go back to services that really provided something for them. It was dash programs, it was bus programs, it was local programs, and that's really how that proposition was passed. It was agreed to give back to local governments a portion of that. And it's unfortunate, I guess we have a $23 million deficit in our Prop A, but I want to figure out how we can really try to locate some of the money, particularly for the charter bus program. I wasn't a part of that decision making. No one asked me how I felt about it, and I just really think that was a bad cut, personally. Let me ask just about the Wilmington Dash and the commuter express, the 142 from Long Beach and back. And I know, again, tough choices. We're ending the service of the Wilmington Dash, I believe, at 7 p.m. There's about 19 people that are now can't get home from wherever they were, wherever they started that day. Now they can't get home because we've ended that program. How does that compare with the 142 line where I feel like there was only 6 people that use that for getting home from work, and we're extending that to 11 p.m. at night from Long Beach back across the bridge, and didn't know what our rationale was. Could we end that one at 10 instead of 11, and would that help keep the Wilmington Dash? It seems to me there was more people on the Wilmington Dash that were going to be left stranded than if we ended the 142 commuter service, if we ended that, let's say, at 9 or at 10. And again, I don't know if we're comparing apples and oranges, if that money is similar dollars. I feel bad about the 7 p.m. There's a lot of folks that depend on that dash to frankly get home. And what are we doing about that?
Just real quickly, most dash services that we operate actually end at 7 o'clock. There are a handful that operate till 8 or so, and we are scaling back a number of those. The 142 is a situation where it ran till 11 o'clock. We were recommending to cancel the service at 9 o'clock. Right. Because of looking at the alternatives that are available, there literally is no alternative between San Pedro and Long Beach. And we heard from a number of people at the public hearings about that they have no way of getting home from work. And that service also is funded through MTA, through FAP funding, so we do get additional funding where we don't get that for Dash Wilmington. So we made the decision to retain service to 11 o'clock on the 142, but cut it down to an hour headway.
Because again, we're only talking about, it looked like from the survey you did, there was only 6 people that were using that for work.
Right, but again, we are getting a significant amount of funding from the MTA, and we did cut it down to an hour headway, so we're going to keep just base Lifeline service.
And what kind of outreach has been done for the 19 people in Wilmington that now can't get home? Are they aware of the alternative services? Have we surveyed these people? Do they know what they're able to use? Can you tell me that you've specifically spoken to these people, given them maps, given them alternative routes home?
We've held public hearings throughout the city.
No public hearings throughout the city. This is Wilmington. This is 19 people who were depending on that Dash to get home at 7 o'clock at night.
We've kept the Wilmington riders and all the riders of our services informed throughout the process from the very beginning last year, what we were doing. We gave them preliminary recommendations, and we're going to be providing all the riders of Dash Wilmington with information about the changes, and we could potentially include alternatives that they could look at when the service ends at 7 o'clock. So
I would request that you meet specifically with the Wilmington Dash riders, and you do provide alternative routes for them. And then I would like to see that communication, or see how it was happening, like a report back to me on those riders in Wilmington. Because again, I think we're cutting off a service that is very important.
Mr. Reyes. Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, I submitted 17A, and the reasons for it, I think, very well articulated already by my colleagues, Councilman Cardenas, and issues raised by Councilman Hahn, and they're absolutely right. I get stacks of letters of all the kids who've never been to a museum if it were not for that charter bus. I get pictures from the seniors who never get out of the neighborhood for all the reasons we know, who've been to the beach, haven't been to the beach. I was just asking my colleagues, who knew what's the widest point of Los Angeles? And the longest, I understand the longest is 47 miles north and south. Do you guys happen to know what's east and west? I mean, I just want to put in perspective how many miles of just area there is in Los Angeles, and all the great distances that these transit-dependent folks have to cover. And that was my point. So north and south is 47 miles. If we look at Sepulveda, within the city boundaries. And I got to know East and West is now as Chair of Plum. I should know that. But East and West, I think, would be an interesting factoid. But the bottom line is, if we get this report back, can we get the funds in place so that we don't hurt our kids who are dependent on the charter for educational purposes and for our seniors? Can we fit it within the timeline?
Sorry, I'm trying to...
The 17A, as directed and by Councilman Parks, the Chair of Budget and Finance, if it comes back within the period that he stated, it's conceivable that we won't interrupt service to our children and to our seniors? Is that a yes or a no or a maybe?
To committee before July 1st, before the end of the program.
I know there's no money in the budget to pay for it, so as soon as...
Okay.
We'll have to look at it, since the money's not in the budget. We'll have to work with the CLA and the CAO on getting report back to committee where we find the funds for it.
So I appreciate that the Chair of the Budget Finance, Councilor Parks, will have it in this committee before the 1st, and hopefully we'll get some clarity there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon.
Yes, council members, I can tell you, when I was a kid, using the buses was really the only way I would have an opportunity to go to the Natural History Museum or Cabrillo Beach or even the zoo. Being raised by a single mother who worked until 9 in the evenings on most weekdays, it was these buses that enabled me to see things that I otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to see. And I too get the letters from the council, from kids usually who have taken a bus for the first time outside of their neighborhood, and In fact, I'll never forget one letter I got where I don't even remember where they went because they were so excited about just being on a bus to go outside their community that they wrote a thank you just to say thank you for letting me ride the bus. It was fun. But more than that, as a teacher, I used it to send kids to go see whales. And that's something that their parents probably wouldn't have had them do. But more important than the fact that individuals were able to go to these places, they were doing it as a group. They were experiencing education as a group. We were helping enhance a culture of ongoing education that the kids would talk about these experiences as an educational experience, not a family experience, but an educational experience, so it had a whole different effect on their social well-being. So this is a program that, to the full extent possible, we should continue to provide, because there, frankly, aren't any other resources that will provide it. It could be church groups, school groups, mostly elementary schools in my district, and we all know how their budgets are going. I would like to add a friendly amendment to the Reyes motion that asks that DOT reports back in 30 days after consulting with each council office to see if the council offices might volunteer additional resources that they may have at their discretion to enhance the buy, if you will, so that we can create economies of scale beyond 1.5 million and enhance opportunities. I know for one, I would like to look at my budget to see if I can squeeze out dollars for this program for my district, and would encourage all others to do the same. If one council district can't do it, maybe 14 can. And before the end of the day, maybe we have $2.5 million instead of $1.5 million. So if you would accept that as a friendly amendment, then let's do this, especially for the kids. A lot of seniors use it as well, but the vast majority of people that use it are the kids.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas Labange.
I just said it is very critical, as all things are, but James, I want you to come to us earlier and say, we're going to stop the senior programs, or the people at the senior centers are not going to be able to go. I want you to come early to us. I want you to say this is it, because I feel this hasn't been broadly discussed as this decision. Did you talk to council members about this?
We briefed the council offices, the mayor's office.
I don't know if anybody in our office is briefed, but, you know,
I think
I'll find out. Who'd you brief in my office? You know everybody. I'll call. Don't throw them under the bus. Here's the point, ladies and gentlemen. We only have what time we have to help people. And this has been a great program that has evolved. It's changed lives. As Mr. Alarcon just spoke, as a teacher, he would tell his students to go. I remember taking the 95 bus down to Washington Boulevard and then taking whatever the Washington Boulevard bus is after I worked at the print shop into downtown to Hill Street to ride Angel's Flight. And there were people on Angel's Flight. And then I'd take the bus out Sunset to go home to Silver Lake. You experienced the city. Now that was many, many years ago. And I also got to remember, and I know maybe the CLA could help, that we have stepped up more, and I know in Mr. Bradley's time, in the last tough change in governance funding, to put in the plugs of services that the school district has removed, etc. Do you know how much the district has cut back their school trip program?
No, I do not. We'd have to find that out.
Okay, I think we should find that out. And also, Mr. Parks, I think if you go out of the county or the city, that's an experience too. I think whether you visit, not all the county facilities are within the city limits, and also some of our seniors, it's their big trip to go to wherever it is. But I think, now I hate to use this word, but members, and just thinking about this discussion, maybe there's a 50-50 plan that we could work on, or 25-75, to determine if there's special needs for some groups. James, what's it cost generally to take a school bus for a 5-hour trip?
It's generally in the range of $300 to $500.
$300 to $500. So we should look at those aspects, because I want to understand all the issues there. We're going to, what's our action proposed right now?
I'm sorry?
Right now, what's before us? I'm looking at Mr. Miller.
Well, what's before you, Mr. Rosendahl moved the minority report, Mr. Parks seconded it, and you have Mr. Reyes' motion 17A.
Right, 17A. But this is, we're going to consider any of this, we're going to refocus on this again, or the report, someone asked for a report back in 30 days.
17A. Yes.
17A would okay.
Yes,
Very
that's
good.
the motion that addresses identifying funding for the charter bus program.
All right, good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker on the queue is Mr. Zine for a second time.
I just need to comment that I was on budget and finance for a while, and we have the librarians that want to keep their positions. We don't want to reduce library hours. We don't want to lose any of our city employees. We don't want to cut back on the transportation that we've been given to the seniors, to the children, all wonderful, great programs. The problem is there's only so much money, and we have to come to the realization is we're going to have to make some cutbacks, and it impacts basically every service that we provide, whether it be fixing sidewalks or street surfacing or transportation programs. And as each group comes up and asks for us to save that particular program, the child care, the senior centers, the nonprofits that use city facilities, everybody wants to keep what they have. The bottom line is we don't have the funds to maintain that service. So I just want to acknowledge that Mr. Parks, who's been on the Budget and Finance as the chairperson, deals with this on a continuing basis. I did it for a short time this particular budget cycle, but we're not trying to hurt the people of Los Angeles. The bottom line is we don't have all the funds that we used to have to provide all these wonderful services that we did for many, many years. So I just want to acknowledge that we're not trying to hurt anyone. Simply, we don't have the funds to continue many of the great programs, whether it be transportation, libraries, child care, you name it. It impacts everything with this budgetary crisis. I just wanted to put that on the record for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. I think we'll take 15 and 16 up first with the instruction to the clerk to place this on next Tuesday's agenda. Can please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Then next we have to take a vote on the motion on 17 to substitute the minority report for the majority report. Please open the roll on substitution, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
And we have to take a vote as amended, 17A plus the instruction from Mr. Alacon to meet with the council offices with DOT. Please open. Mr. Parks?
17A go both to T Committee and Budget and Finance?
Sure. No objection. We'll go both. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
All right, that's approved. Thank you, Mr. Labange.
Mr. City Attorney, as I stated before in my discussion with some citizens who filled out cards, if there's anything that we could, if they do, I think we may have done what they thought we would do, but I wanted to leave that option open, as I discussed earlier, for Tuesday.
Okay, great. That option will be before us. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Okay. Next order of business.
Do you wish to adjourn the special meeting and return to the regular meeting?
Yes, please. Let's go ahead. We now hereby adjourn the special meeting. We go back to the regular meeting. Next order of business.
The council has motions for posting and referral.
Those are posted and referred.
And the desk is clear.
All right. Any announcements, colleagues? Mr. Zine for announcement.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tomorrow in the San Fernando Valley at Warner Center Park, starting at 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., the 7th Annual Valley Traffic Division Traffic Safety Fair, and there will be about 150, 200 cars that will be on display. Public's invited. It's all coordinated by the LAPD Valley Traffic Division. Public is invited, and that's at Warner Center Park, 5800 Topanga Canyon, Topanga, and Oxnard in the San Fernando Valley. So anyone who wants to come out and enjoy that, tomorrow, Warner Center Park, a great program, a safety program, child safety, etc., all coordinated by LAPD and their VTAC program for safety in the San Fernando Valley. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Labange.
Yeah, tomorrow, for 24 hours, the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life with Mr. Garcetti, located in the Greater Griffith Park area at the Mulholland Fountain at Los Feliz and Riverside. For survivors, families, and friends will be walking to raise awareness for cancer on this very important effort. Tomorrow, Saturday, for 24 hours, Relay for Life, Mulholland Fountain, Los Feliz and Riverside. Thank you.
Thank you. Other announcements, Mr. Parks?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a couple of Rec Park events. Algin Sutton at 8800 block of Hoover will have their opening of their 2010 baseball co-ed and T-ball opening. Starts at 10 o'clock. And also, we'll have a baseball season opening with St. Andrews Park at 11 o'clock off of Manchester. And also, just to remind the public that CRA will have their meeting in the community June 9th at the 4401 Crenshaw Boulevard at Chase Bank, and the guest speaker will be the newly appointed CRA Commissioner, Dr. Bolton, and that starts at noon.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas.
Yes, thank you. Two announcements. First one is I'd like to just thank, on behalf of the community of Sun Valley, the federal government, county government, state government, and the city of Los Angeles. Yesterday we did the ribbon cutting on a street that was renovated for stormwater recapture, and then it's my understanding, Mr. Rosendahl, you should be very happy about that, because the water that we recapture into the water tables in the San Fernando Valley actually comes out of the taps and the faucets on the west side of our wonderful city. So it's the kind of thing that we're actually doing the responsible thing, educating that community about stormwater recapture and capturing just millions of gallons a year that otherwise would have just ran off, created flooding, and just creates havoc for the community. Now we're actually recapturing that water. So I just want to thank all of the levels of government. It was a wonderful, beautiful thing to see so many levels of government actually working together very well, and then actually coming to fruition and making the project the first of its kind in the city of Los Angeles, and my understanding, a very unique project that hopefully will be duplicated around the country and perhaps around the world. My second announcement is just to commend the Lakers, our Los Angeles Lakers, for really showing that they are the best team in the world, and that last night there was a lot of speculation if our Los Angeles Lakers, which rightfully so is a very talented and finesse team, if they could actually change the way that they do business and actually play like the Boston Celtics and beat them. And yesterday they literally put a beat down on the Boston Celtics. So I just want to commend the Lakers and their entire organization, and congratulations to the city of LA. We're only 3 games away from being the champions again.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for wearing your Laker purple shirt today. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, Councilor Cardenas. Tony, wise and sage advice from Councilor Parks. Let's not give Celtics more motivation. So they're still in town. But I did want to invite everyone to the Charles Loomis Day event in Highland Park, Heritage Square off of Avenue 43. Charles Loomis, folks, is the first librarian who walked a good distance, I think from the Mississippi area, to Los Angeles, actually built the Southwest Museum. His original home is still intact on 43, off the freeway in Highland Park. And it's Loomis Day, free food. There's going to be painting, there's going to be dance, there's going to be music, and you get to learn more about our great history to our architecture in Highland Park. So Charles Loomis Day, you're all invited. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any adjourning motions today? If we don't have any adjourning motions, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alarcon, Cardenas, Han, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Reyes, Rosendahl, Zine, Garcetti.
Thank you. This meeting of the Los Angeles City Council is adjourned. We'll next be in session on Tuesday here in John Farrar Council Chamber at 10 a.m. Thank you. Have a good weekend, and go Lakers.